Hello? Can you hear me now? Am I working? Is the mic unbroken? That was scary, I know. I literally just moved my mic. I was like, oh, let me get my mic over here. And it literally broke when I got it over here. So love that for me. Not this. Not this. I just wanted to stream. I just wanted to be here with y'all. Anyway. Anyways, now that I'm back, how have y'all been? It's been a while, actually. Let me see, actually, when was the last time I streamed? Because it feels like it's been a while. It was probably not that long ago, but it definitely has been a minute. So it's nice to be here, first and foremost. How are y'all doing? I hope y'all are doing well. It's definitely very... it's very nice to be here with you all, honestly. I did need a couple days to take, like, a little bit of time off. Because anyone who may have missed it, I've been over at the Just Gaming Things channel for a little bit. We've been covering all the E3 Summer of Games stuff. We've been having a lot of fun with those. So that's what we've been up to lately. So if y'all haven't checked out Just Gaming Things, y'all are missing out because we've been pumping out a lot of content lately, actually. Which is not our usual. We usually only do like our weekly podcast and sometimes like an occasional gaming stream here and there. But I do have to say that we have been pumping out a lot of content. And you should be aware of that, you know? That's all. Anyway. You should be aware of that, you know? You should be inclined to knowing that information, you know? I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm doing. But here we are. Here we are. No, but it's been super fun. It's been super fun, like reacting to all the E3 stuff. Like, we are definitely gonna talk about it more tomorrow for sure on the podcast, and we're gonna talk about our reactions, what we thought, our favorites, our least favorites, all that fun stuff. It's also been fun to just take a couple days off. I also recorded a super secret thing that I can't talk about, unfortunately. But it originated the tweet that I posted yesterday, which, by the way, follow me on Twitter if you haven't. But I posted about, like, impact over numbers and all that because without wanting to get into details, because I can't get into details, people, you never know who's watching you. Even if you're looking at your view count and you're like, which I'm not looking at it right now, but it's one of those things where like sometimes you just look at your view count and you don't think like, oh, I'm not making enough of an impact, or like I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough as a content creator because my numbers don't reflect that, or because whatever, what have you. And then you get and then like, and I'm that person, right? Sometimes I'm that person. And then you get an email or you get a DM from like an unexpected source, let's just say that. And you're like, oh damn. People are seeing me. I am out here doing stuff and people are recognizing that. So I can't get into details again. Soon I'll probably be able to say stuff about it. But It's an exciting, super exciting thing. I can say generally what it was. So I got my first paid speaking gig. I can't say what it was. I can't give you all any details, but I will be showing up somewhere soon, TM. And it's just like it's wild, right? Because you think like, oh, I'm not a Twitch partner, I'm not, I don't have the highest view count from the people around me, or I don't have like a wild amount of followers, or you know what I mean? Like you just think all of these things, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like you think like I'm proud of my content, like I love what I do. I'm about like speaking out about all kinds of issues, about all kinds of topics, about all kinds of things, but oftentimes you can't really measure the impact of what you're doing from the numbers alone, right? Whether you're making people happy that day isn't getting measured or accounted for in the analytics that you look at, right? Or the people maybe in the industry, or people that I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I guess what I was kind of trying to say with that tweet as well was that I definitely wouldn't like, I'm glad I didn't give up, because like since getting started and all of that, there's been like, I haven't really like heavily considered quitting, thankfully. But I've definitely had moments where I was like, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I even meant to do this? Like, especially when you're doing something for a while and you see people, like when you look at things as if they're like a race, right? And you're like, oh, people are getting there before me. Like when you kind of get to that mindset, then it's not healthy. It's not a healthy mindset to have. But also it's like something that I was telling, that I like to tell people all the time, is that whenever you're making content, make sure that you're making content that you're proud of. Don't make content to chase after a trend. Don't make content to, try to be cool, or because all of your friends are doing it, or because you're seeing someone being successful at it. Like, build content that you're proud of, and by doing content that you're proud of, you're building a portfolio for you to be proud of. And that applies to like a lot of different types of jobs. I think the only job that really looks at numbers and all of that, well, one of the few, is streaming and content creation. Because if you're posting on Instagram, you're looking at how many likes you're getting, how many comments you're getting, how many followers you're getting. But like, if you're an accountant, for example, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter if you're accounting, if you're like working with like an individual, if you're working with several companies, it doesn't really matter as long as you're making that money and as long as you're being helpful to people. So it's like one of those things where like, why as content creators do we measure our worth based on the numbers that we're seeing on screen? And that's a question that I ask myself, like, why am I doing that, And thank you so much. She's an international super spy. I love that meme. Not me coming in getting called out. Pants. Jam, I love y'all. Oh, is my bot not on? Oh, you did get a shout out, Pants. Okay. Yeah, Jam and Pants are two amazing co-hosts that I have on the Just Gaming Things channel. And they're both lovely humans and creators, so you definitely need to check them out, as well as Spin. So yeah, just wanted to say that too. Me and my mindset as a streamer. God, I wish I had your mind. I think it's something that you have to train at, to be honest. Like, it's not a mindset that you just have. In my personal experience, Pants, like, that's not a mindset that I just have. Like, in order for me to have this mindset, I kind of force myself to. And what I mean by that is I don't have my view count up when I'm streaming, and I also don't have access to it while I'm streaming. So I don't actively, I can't just, I would have to go through a lot of hoops to see how many people are watching me at any given point. And another thing that I've been successful at is not looking at the numbers until the end of the month, which is the harder part, because sometimes it's like 3 a.m. and you're randomly like, oh, let me check my stats, and I have to actively stop myself from doing it, because that's the harder part. And what I mean, and the reason I do it, and y'all are, it's gonna make sense when I say it, right? Because a lot of people tell you, or some people tell you, not a lot of people, but I see some people every once in a while saying like, oh, you should look at your numbers because you should see what's working and what's not working. And to that I say, yes, but give it time. Because if you're looking, and most people, if you want to work with a brand, if you want to work with cool people, if you want to do fancy things, one of the things that people are going to look at, and I say one of the things because they also look at your content, they look at your tweets, they look at what you're saying, they look at what your voice is online. They don't just look at your numbers, just, you know, straight up. But they're one of the stats that they're going to look at is your viewer count, like your average viewership for the last 30 days. Some people look at the 60 days. So my question for you is, if that's a stat that changes, well, technically it changes every day, but you can't really measure like the worth of what you did in the past couple days by looking at the 30-day stats. So what I personally believe in is like, if you start a new game or if you start a new thing on your stream, give it a month. Or if you try a new schedule, give it a month. And then like at the beginning, like we're in June right now, July 1st, like go at it. Look at your stats, look at your average, and you're gonna notice that one, you're not gonna be as attached to it because it's like, oh, it's said and done, you know. I already did it, I already made all those decisions, I already had the fun times. So it's gonna be a little bit far removed from your brain. It's gonna feel like a thing that you're looking at more like from an outside perspective, I guess. And another thing is that when you're looking at your stats for the whole month, you give yourself a little bit more grace because you get the understanding that it's an average, right? So if you have an average of like 5 viewers, 10 viewers, 20 viewers, so on and so forth, if you look at the whole month, you'll see where you did well and where your stream didn't do that well. And sometimes you just gotta either count your losses and be like, oh, that game doesn't do really well, but I'm having fun with it, so I'm gonna stream it anyway. And maybe do more of the things that help you. Or, alternatively, if you're proud of every single thing that you're doing, either like try to change up the times where you're streaming, or just honestly keep at it. You know what I mean? Like, people talk about consistency a lot, and they talk about, oh, you should stream at the same day at the same time and do the same things all the time. But people don't talk about, but people only say that for the things that work for them. You know what I mean? Like, people never say, oh, you should be consistent with a thing that you don't think is doing well. Why not? If you believe in it, why not? Why not try to build content around it, right? Or why not try to sell it in a different way? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why, as a, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can have the time of your life playing a game, and your community is gonna have a lot of fun watching it, and it's gonna make for a really fun video if you want to archive it, or if you want to make clips of it. Then why is that considered a bad stream because it didn't do as well as far as viewership? Why is that considered a bad stream? It's the same thing when you're watching a TV show and you're like, oh my god, that TV show was so good, why did it get canceled? And the network is like, oh well, the show wasn't doing well for the ratings. And you're like, but the show still had a fan base, and the show, even though it didn't do as well as the other shows, I still found it to be a really good show. So, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where, like, the viewership of it all isn't the only thing, because people are gonna, like, again, when like brands want to work with you, they're not necessarily always going to catch you when you're live, right? So they're going to see like your VODs, they're going to see like your YouTube videos, they're going to see your tweets, they're going to see your TikToks maybe, and they're going to see your body of work. They're not going to actively be like, you know, yes, they obviously will look at your stats like, oh, this person has a certain amount of followers. If we want to have them for our event, we know we're going to get a certain percentage of people because of them being associated with it. Like, of course, that's a thing that they look at. But they're going to look at your body of work, right? And if you're going to do meaningful work in the community, that's what people are going to look at, you know? If you want to, and again, maybe this is not everyone's goals, but for me, for example, it's like, I'm proud of the things that I do with my podcast, for example, and I can use that to pitch myself to people and be like, hey, I talk about social issues a lot. I talk about representation. I talk about LGBTQIA plus topics. I also play video games. I'm also silly. I'm also a host. I can also interview people. I can also talk to people. I can host a panel. I can host, you know what I mean? Like, I can just host an event. I can do stuff like that. And it's like, why don't we ever, as content creators, look at the fact that we're building skills rather than like, oh, we're building a community, we're building, which we are, naturally. But at the same time, it's like, why is it that our worth and our focus is often so focused on the viewership of it all? Like, I'm sorry, like, if I thought I had fun, if I thought I had a good stream, these days it's not often associated with whether or not I had a lot of viewership, you know? It's like, if I see y'all laughing in chat, or if y'all are reacting well to things, or if I'm having a good time with it, like, you know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be so focused on numbers or viewership or averages and all that stuff? Because honestly, all that stuff comes and goes. Like, someone can become a partner today, and within like 6 months, their viewership can drop, and that doesn't mean that they're not as good as a streamer. Doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? It's like, it is what it is. It's just, you know, how the cookie crumbles, right? So, and another thing that I will say, and I'm sorry this is if this is like coming across as like I'm in a soapbox kind of thing, and this is like, nah, but like another thing that I wanted to say is like, a lot of the times, as a person who like is active on social media, a lot of the times, if not most of the times, when I post something that I don't really think about like how it's gonna do, those are the things that end up doing well. And I was actually talking to like Spin and Dex just like randomly once, and I was like, oh my god, I posted this TikTok about like me trying like the lettuce water, and it ended up doing so well. And it was just like a random TikTok that I was like, oh, it's like 7 a.m. I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna film a TikTok of it. And it did really well. It gained a lot of traction, and I was like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes, and versus like the clips, for like the stream clips that I edited and I did all of that and I posted on there, and they didn't do well. I'm still proud of them. They're still up on my page, but that also goes to show you that like, just like honestly get out of your head. That's like my main thing. It's like, if you're like, oh, that's a good idea, like honestly, you either do it then, or you either like work at it or something, but don't let that idea die because you don't think it's gonna do well or whatever. Sometimes I post random ass text posts and they do really well for some reason, or I talk about something that I'm really passionate about, and then I was talking to like my friends about it, like I said, with Spin and Dex and stuff, and as I was talking to them, I was like, who would have thought that social media websites who are based on social interaction, the things that aren't fabricated and the things that are genuine and the things that are, you know, spontaneous end up being things that resonate with people? Who would have thought? Because like if you think about like IRL things and IRL people and people that are popular in real life and people that are very nice and people that are very social and stuff like that, you usually gravitate towards people who are just being honest. They say what's on their mind. They're being genuine. They're not trying to put on a facade. They're not trying to, you know, do all of that. And a part of me wants to believe that you know, that kind of comes across, you know, like you being genuine, you being yourself, and you being you does come across, and people do gravitate towards that. And sometimes, you know, and maybe it's the stubbornness in me, maybe it's me being a Taurus and me being stubborn. But from the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to do something if it's going to make me miserable. Like, I'm not going to play, like, for example, this is in the beginning when I played a lot of Minecraft and I had a lot of fun doing it, but eventually I got burned out of it and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I was like, if I wanted to do something that to make me miserable for money, I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not going to quit my day job to do it. You know what I mean? Like, why would I quit my day job to do things and to make content creation a job in a bad way? Because you can make content creation a job in a good way, like, you know, like working with brands that align with you, being a part of projects that are fun and that you would naturally want to be a part of, all that fun stuff, right? But like, why would I want to make this a miserable job? Like, if I wanted this to be a miserable job, I would just stay in my I would just like stay in the food industry and work in there and be a server or be, you know what I mean? Like, so that's my main thing. It's like, it's gonna take a while. If you're not doing something that's like popular, if you're not doing something that's like whatever, it's gonna take you a while. But I guess like the main thing that I wanted to say about that is like, you will eventually find your people, you will eventually find your path, and you will eventually find your way. Because, and I say this all the time, like, I didn't get in Team Rainbow Arcade because I have the most follower numbers out of everybody in there. I would like to believe that I got into Team Rainbow Arcade, for example, because of the things that I do, the work that I do, the things that I talk about, the people that I invite, the conversations that I have. They didn't say yes to me because they were like, oh my god, you have so many followers, we're gonna gain so much viewership from you. And I say that because in the application form, there was no such thing about numbers. It was only questions about me and my content and what I do and what my message is. So, or when you want to work with brands, or when you want to, like, it's gonna take a while, you know, like a lot of things just naturally take time. A tree doesn't grow overnight, y'all. You know what I mean? Like, a tree just doesn't grow overnight. It takes time, you know? It takes sometimes years to develop a craft. And why do we accept that in any other industry? And in the content creation industry, we're like, oh, I'm flopping. No, you're not. You're growing. You're learning every day. You're becoming a better streamer every day. You're learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And you learn that not by watching advice videos, but by doing it, and by watching other people and getting inspired by them, and getting inspired by the things that you do, and you're like, ooh, I should try it that way, or I should do this way, or, you know, or sometimes by asking for help, by reaching out to other people and being like, hey, what do you do when you're feeling stuck, or, you know, like, all that stuff. I'm sorry, I'm going on all the rants on this day. Let me read what y'all are saying in chat. Stream. Spin said, what's worked for me is that I gave myself a day to play less popular stuff that I want to do anyway. I love all the games that I play, but my Wednesdays are for the days where I give myself permission to flop and still have fun. And Spin said flop in quotation marks. Pants said, I think people think because there's some people who just pop up and have major growth and they think that will happen to everyone. Right. And that's also a thing that people need to realize, is like, nobody ever just pops out of nowhere. Nobody, repeat after me, nobody pops up out of nowhere. And what I mean by that is that there was a streamer that I used to be affiliated with. They may or may not have been a former, you know, teammate, team leader, team founder of mine. And their whole thing was like, oh, I'm new in this space, I'm just navigating and I'm learning every day. Meanwhile, they fully had an account in like 2015 or 2016, and they were streaming back then, and then they flopped, and then they moved to Mixer, and then they built a community there, and then they came back to Twitch after building a community over there. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the times streamers that you're like, oh my god, this person came out of nowhere and they're doing so well, a lot of the times they either have a background in YouTube, or they've been a social media person in like a different platform like Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever, or some people just fully like there was a streamer that I used to associate with, and they were like, they got partnered within like a year or whatever. Turns out the person had a marketing degree. Who would have thought? Someone who studied branding for a living managed to build a successful brand, and someone who works, you know, in that industry, turns out they were able to market themselves and succeed at it. But at the same time, you have to realize that, you know, like everyone does it differently. And sometimes, honestly, can I be very, very honest with you, sometimes those are the people that I don't associate myself with, because you can't just DM them and have a conversation with them. It's always like a whole thing. It's always like a whole professional front in front of you. They only care, they like look at your numbers, and that decides how quick they are at responding to your messages. You know, like I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Sometimes those people, the people that are like, that gain a lot of success very quickly, or a lot of people that are very number focused, that's what they are. They're number focused. Everything that they do comes with numbers in mind, and they don't ever do things if it's not gonna help them in their channel. There's a streamer that there's another streamer that I also used to associate myself with, and the person who may or may not have given me stream coaching before, and that person said, and I quote, "I never do anything unless it helps my channel." Which explains why they're on a, you know, alt-right kind of situation, anti-cancel culture situation, because that gets them a lot of clicks nowadays. But that's another story for another day. But you also have to understand that. And if you're someone who's like, more like, I would say more like me, who's like someone who actually craves connections with other people, you want to make friends, you don't want to like build networky bullshit situations. You want to actually like, you want to have people where you like log in at like 3 a.m. and you play video games with them, and none of you is recording or streaming, but y'all are just hanging out. And for those of us, that's gonna take a while, you know, because we want to work on genuine things. But guess what? We're building slowly but surely, and the people that come into our lives are going to see how genuine we are, and they're going to see where we come from, and they're going to see that we're not coming from like a numbers based mentality. We're not, you know, looking to like step on other people to get where we need to get, and we're not building connections, or we're not building connections, we're building friendships, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. And listen, honestly, I have no knowledge in marketing. I have nothing. I just try stuff out and see what works, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't work for a long time, and then it randomly works, and honestly, I also need to say this. Sometimes it's just luck. Honestly, sometimes I just post something and someone in my followers list happens to be someone with a lot of followers, and if they see a tweet of mine and they resonate with it, they will retweet it, and that's how a tweet gets popular sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes one popular person in your following list will retweet something of yours, and suddenly their followers are gonna do the rest. And that's completely fine, and that doesn't mean that you're not good enough or whatever. It's just, sometimes it is what it is. You just are at the right place at the right time in front of the right people, and that's why it's so important to work on your content, because if you're always proud of what you're doing, you can receive a rate of 3,300 millions of people, and if you have content that is good, they're gonna stay and they're gonna watch, and you're gonna be ready for whenever those doors open, right? Because another thing is like, I think sometimes to myself, like, oh, I want to work with brands, I want to do all these things. But to be honest, looking back when I first started streaming, I don't know if I would have done well. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would have been a good spokesperson for a brand. I don't know if I would have been able to handle like a big gig, like a big hosting gig or a speaking gig or whatever. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to do it like mentally, or even just like if I would have been good enough at it. And I don't think I'm perfect at it. I don't think I'm amazing at it. But my point is, sometimes, you know, things will take time because you just need to build on them. Sometimes you just need to work at stuff. Sometimes you just need to work on your content, be the best streamer that you can be the best version of yourself, and be the best you that you can be, and things will naturally gravitate towards you, y'all. You know what I mean? I'm also just saying these things because a lot of these things I also just need to remind myself of them, you know? Spin said it's so hard not to compare yourself to others like that. It's true. It's absolutely true. Pan said it's also people who build communities in other communities, I feel. Yeah. There's just people who have a lot of spoons. Like, they are like moderating other people's channels. Every time someone is on their timeline like, oh, I'm looking for a lobby of people to play with, they're always, offering themselves to be on that. And they always want to be a part of everything. And they always get, they always want to get all the things. They always want to do all the things. And it's like, some of us, that's just not realistic. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to I'm not going to be a part of, like, I don't know. I'm not going to be a part of a lobby of Among Us if I don't want to play Among Us. I'm sorry. Like, some people are able to put that aside and to be like, oh, that's going to be a good opportunity for me. That's going to be a hustling moment for me. No, I would rather be friends with a person who puts on the Among Us matches, and then if I happen to be streaming and they choose to raid me, then wonderful. And guess what? I got the clout, per se, without having to do something that I don't like. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean that in like, oh, I don't strategically befriend people. That's not who I am. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you just naturally make friendships, and if you just naturally gravitate towards people who, like, you gravitate towards, and people gravitate towards you, and you're just genuine and you make genuine connections with people, then people are just gonna genuinely want to support you, and people are just gonna genuinely want to have you in their spaces and doing their things. And also, like, don't be afraid to apply for things. Like, do you know how many times I apply for, like, stuff that I don't get? But sometimes you get them. Hi, Fly. How are you? That's one of the things that's hard about being a disabled streamer. Like I can literally quantify how much better I'd be doing and how many more opportunities I could have had if I wasn't disabled, and I just need to push that aside. Yeah, Spin, that's not accurate. Honestly, just because someone is doing the most doesn't mean that they're gonna get opportunities or whatever. Like, you're doing the most with what you have, and you just got onto an amazing stream team. You're doing iconically. You have your own store. Like, you're doing the damn thing. You know what I mean? And you're not, like, destroying your body. Well, you are. Sometimes, we need to yell at you to take a rest. But, you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing more than what you can do. And that goes for everybody. Like, we're all just trying our best, y'all. We're all just trying our best. Don't think that you need to do the most like other people are doing. Don't think, and I said this in the beginning of Pride as well, like, don't think that you need to be on all of the projects, putting on all the shows, all of the things. Like, you don't. So good to see you. I feel like it's been forever since I've caught your stream. I think it's been forever since I've streamed. I was trying to pull up the last time I streamed. Because I've been doing a lot of just gaming things content lately, so I haven't been actively streaming. And then yesterday I completely took the day off, and then Wednesday I had a super secret special project that I was working on. Yeah, last time I streamed was on last Sunday, so it's almost been a week. It's almost been a week since I last streamed. I'm not saying I'm not doing well. I'm just saying that it gets in my head sometimes. Oh, no. I'm not. I wasn't implying that you were saying that you weren't doing good enough. What I was trying to say is like, I was basically replying to the thoughts that go in your head, because sometimes those are thoughts that go in my head, right? Sometimes I tell myself like, oh, I should have been on more things. I should have like try to put myself out there more. I should have, which is not a bad thing, by the way. Like, you know, that's not a bad thing for you to do. Or like, oh, it's so easy for us to tell ourselves like, oh, I would have been doing so much better if I was able to stream at this time, or I would have been doing so much better if I was able to push through and just do that thing, or stream for longer periods of time, or stream more often, or what have you. I think, in my humble opinion, when you focus your energy towards something, it doesn't matter if you're only doing it once a week, it doesn't matter if you're whatever, if you're focusing your energy onto something, I think you're bound to get something out of it, in my humble opinion. Because a lot of the times, like, that I dedicated myself full time to like streaming and stuff like that, I've been like, oh, work. Like, I slowly but surely see growth. But then the second, for example, like I got like a part-time job and my energy was like scattered and I was focusing on other things, then that's when stuff would start like declining again, which, you know, it's not a great thing. It's not a great thing, you know, like, but it is what it is. Like, sometimes like the things that you decide to water are the things that are gonna grow, right? Hey Coco, how's it going? Your perspective and who you are as of right now is valid and brings something to the table. Yes. One of the things that makes me feel better about it is seeing how much more discoverable I am because of the disable tag. The disable tag is always the tag that I'm most found through now, and that reminds me that even if I can't take on too much, as much as I'd like, people are looking for my perspective. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, and that's like another thing. It's like, when you raid people don't talk about your follower count or how many viewers you get. You know what I mean? Like, when you raid someone, they're not gonna be like, oh my god, this person has so many followers. Y'all should go and like. Hello? I can't touch my microphone. I can't touch my microphone. I'm not allowed to. Let me not touch my microphone. But you know what I mean? Like, when you raid someone, they're not gonna talk about the things that like, oh, this person gets so many viewers, this person is so cool. Like, no, they're gonna say like, oh, this person is really kind, or this person is really funny, or I really like their content, I really like what they're doing. And that was actually, I don't remember who said this, but that was one piece of advice that I saw one time on Twitter or something that I was like, that's actually really fierce. Like, whenever you raid someone as a streamer, take note of what they're saying and focus on that. That's your brand. That's who you are. For me, every time I raid someone, they're like, people always say like, oh, Ruby does a lot of podcasts, and you know, they're really kind about it. They always people always say like Ruby does like amazing podcasts, or they do really great content or whatever, and it makes me really happy. And that's what I try to focus on. It's not easy, obviously. Especially if you see like a downwards red arrow in your stats and you're like, no, I'm not growing. But you know what I mean? Like, focus on like what is resonating with people. I like your crown. Reminds me when I used to buy crowns when I was young. Aw, thank you. Someone got this for my mom. We threw, one of her co-workers alongside my brother threw her a surprise birthday party. And they gave her this, like for her to wear because she was the birthday queen. Yeah. I just took it from her. Give me a second. I need to do a little thing. Sorry, y'all. Give me just 1 second. Okay, so first of all, I reported your account. I don't know why you're a Twitch partner and you're asking for people for money in their streams as they're streaming. So first things first, you've gotten blocked, you've gotten now banned, and I've also just reported your account. So have fun with that. Anyway. And also, I'm non-binary, so don't call me a bro ever. Teehee. Anyway. If you're a streamer, there's a username for you to ban. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. How are you a partner, right? That's the thing about Twitch that I actually talked about on social media recently. Actually, it was Sir Caitlin actually posted about like, it was a post that had to do with like oh my god, about how like Twitch only focuses on numbers, and that's not like necessarily a descriptor of someone's quality as a creator, and it shouldn't define them as like whether or not they're a good fit to be a Twitch partner. And that makes me concerned because of situations like this where someone, first of all, you can't see any of their content in their page, so they either have it under a sub thing, under like a paid wall, which is their choice, I guess, or there's a chance that they bought their numbers, or they built their numbers on a base of, you know, hatred and hate speech and harassment and questionable behavior, which makes me think, how does someone get partnered? Like, do they only, like, it seems, and it's concerning, it reminds me of that person who got partnered and then banned within a week. How does a person get partnered only due to their numbers? Like, does someone like, why? If I was Twitch, I would look at an account and I would look at their content and I would be like, no, I'm so sorry, sweetie, you're not going to be a partner because your content is not it, right? And you would give people feedback on their content. But what happens is people often get rejected, and then they get the feedback of, oh, we just want to make sure you have a consistent viewership moving forward. We just want to see if you can maintain those numbers. So their content can be actual trash, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is a perfect representative of our brand. What? Yeah, Lotus, that's a thing. They still accept people's, you can get partnership if you're like verified on Twitter, for example. It's one of the things, like, if you have a big viewership on other platforms, you can get partnered. Joey Graceffa, Tyler Oakley, a lot of ex-YouTube people who have a decent amount, you know, they have a good following, right, in other platforms, and they're brand new to Twitch, and they arrive to Twitch, and they're like, hi, I'm a Twitch partner, and I'm gonna do all of the things, and you're like, mama, you've been quiet for 15 minutes straight because you don't know how to talk to a live stream chat, because you're not used to that. And I'm not talking about any of the specific people that I just mentioned, by the way. I'm just talking in general. I notice often people who come from YouTube and they're not used to Twitch and they don't know anything about the culture, but they're, you know, famous enough that they get, they're famous enough that they don't need to learn anything about Twitch. They just hop on, they're a partner, and they're like, hey, here I am. And sometimes they're rude, like Lotus is saying, which, by the way, hi Lotus. Follow Lotus right now. Lotus is amazing. Exactly. They have zero understanding about Twitch etiquette. Super rude. I was watching a stream the other day and from someone who used to be on YouTube. Well, they are on YouTube, but now they're trying to stream and stuff like that. And they were just fully like staring at their screen. Like, no joke. Like, they started their stream and they weren't like, hi, how's it going? Like, they were just like, hey. And then they were just like staring at their chat, waiting for like a question or a comment or something. They were like, and I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that I'm the best content creator in the world, but mama, once the stream comes on, it doesn't matter who's chatting. It doesn't matter who's not chatting. You're going to be talking. You're putting on a show, mama. What are you doing? It reminds me of like those like plus 18 streams where like people are just like quietly doing stuff, or like even like not doing stuff. They're just like waiting for chat to say something or whatever, or waiting for a donation or waiting for a tip or whatever. And you're just like, you're boring. You don't know how to put on a show, mama. And that's like, honestly, starting up, like, pretend that you're filming a YouTube video. Pretend that people are watching you at all times, because then you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to shut up because no one is watching. Like, no, mama, pretend people are watching. Pretend you're the most famous streamer in the world. Because guess what? Listen, People people with 0 viewers, people with 1,000,000 viewers, neither of them are talking to chat. Let me just tell you, neither of them are talking to chat, because the person with 0 viewers doesn't have chat. The person with 1,000,000 viewers, their chat is so fast they can't keep track of anything or talk to anyone in specific, so they're just talking. So honestly, just pretend that you're a super famous streamer and you can't even keep track of your chat. Unless people are talking in your chat. I could never be that person though, honestly. I don't care if I have to put my chat on the slowest mode possible, follower only, whatever have you. Like, I can't imagine myself being that streamer that just doesn't acknowledge chat at all. Like, I have to do it for like panels and like, you know, breakfast at Ruby's and stuff like that when I'm like podcasting. But like for like a regular stream, I can't imagine just like doing that. Thank you, friend. You're very sweet. Aw. You and me get each other, just straight to the salt rants. Oh, I'm always ranting. I'm always ranting. I love ranting. That's why I stream. Listen, I have things to say. Hey, what's up, everybody? ProjectRuby is back with another Twitch stream. Oh, that's funny. Me filming YouTube videos. Before I had a Twitch channel, me filming YouTube videos on my own. I have to tell you, filming YouTube videos isn't great. It's funny because when I started streaming, I was pretending that I wasn't pretending that I was filming YouTube videos. I was actually recording the videos and posting them on YouTube. But nowadays, when I have to do a pre-recorded thing, I actually have to pretend that I'm streaming and that people are watching me in real time, because there's no energy when you're just like pre-recording something, or when you're trying to like record a video or doing something. There's no energy in the room, so you have to just like pretend. You just have to pretend that the chat is watching you somehow. It's so odd. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I have to do it. I have to do it. Oh, not that. Strider, welcome on in. I was trying to fix the alerts, but I didn't succeed. So there's that. Welcome on in, Strider. Strider's community. What were you up to? Tell me all about yourself. I'm gonna show you a little bit about myself. So here's what you can expect from me. It's clowning time. Oh, hi. Oh, that pornographic sound I made, what the hell? The train is coming and so am I. Bad bitches make some noise. Oh, professional gamer. Oh shit, let's wash the pussy before we go. There's a door here though. Woo! Fuck, not again. Well. Every time I watch that video back, I'm like, well, it happened again. Whether I liked it or not, I got spooked, y'all. But yes, welcome on in, y'all. My name is Ruby. I go by ProjectRuby. My pronouns are they, them. Please respect my pronouns. What are your pronouns? Please talk. Let's talk about pronouns. Let's talk about pronouns. You can actually do exclamation point pronouns. I think that's a thing. And you can actually set your pronouns, and I will be able to see them in chat, because it's really important for us to acknowledge and respect one another's pronouns. I'm a queer non-binary streamer from Portugal. Welcome on in. Today we're just chatting, really. I don't have any plans, any particular plans for today, really. I just logged in because I missed y'all. I missed streaming. It's been a minute. Last time I streamed was on Sunday. But I do have a lot of fun stuff coming up. God, it's hard to speak. Oh, speaking is hard. But first things first, Just Gaming Things. I have a podcast. I'm gonna be live with that podcast tomorrow. What time? It's gonna be 7 p.m. BST, and it's gonna be 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna be talking about E3. We're gonna be talking about all the gaming stuff that happened this week. Stay tuned. Also, later that day, I'm going to be on Ryan Huat's Pyramid of What. I'm back again. We're doing not an all-star season because guess what? I got eliminated first last time I participated. So we're doing unfinished business. We're doing a season of unfinished business with people that were on the show before, but they didn't win. So we're dipping in and doing it. You may see some familiar faces on there. I'm gonna be teaming up with Kieran Raleigh. I'm so sorry, I can't read apparently. So it's gonna be fun to be paired up with someone who was not my teammate last time, because unfortunately Passion could not make it to this special season. You can also see Diana and I Geeked Out are gonna be also participating, so you know, a couple familiar faces as well. Oh, over here as well. Oh, more familiar faces. You see Queen Nicki Mirage and Tater Thoughts. And also, last but not least, we have Mama and Gobby's Gaming. So, just a queerfully stacked pyramid of unfinished business coming at you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 p.m. BST if you're in Europe like me. It should be super, super fun. I had a blast. I was eliminated first, like I said, but I had such a good time on Ryan's show. Ryan is such a lovely host. So that's going to be on Ryan's channel, so please check him out. Go follow him. Ryan is honestly a very entertaining and fun streamer that does a variety of things. Ryan does a lot of Mario Kart. He does the Pyramid of What regularly, once a month, I think. And then of course The Sims and a lot of lots of fun content for sure. I can definitely recommend Ryan's stream if you want to have a good time. Totes recommends. What else do I have coming up? Well, I have something that I can talk about that may or may not take place next week. Maybe. You didn't hear it from me, but maybe. Oh yeah, I will be doing, I am partnering up with a few streamers, and I'm gonna be doing a fundraiser to help out in, we're doing a Palestinian fundraiser, and we're raising money for charity. It's called Rebuilding Alliance Umbrella. We are going to be raising money for that. I know a bunch of the streamers on that group have already been raising a lot of money, but I've been busy with the Sega content. And over this past week, I haven't been able to really do anything on my own channel. So we're going to be raising money for that soon. Over the next week, the group of streamers, the charity team has already raised over $5,000, which is incredible. So I want to do a fundraiser. I think I'm going to do... I might do either a week-long stream, not a week-long stream, a week-long fundraising, or I'm gonna pick out a couple days and I'm gonna do that to raise money for that, because I think that would be really nice, because it's a really great cause. You know, obviously it's like a situation that you wanna support, because people are going through a hard time over there, and people need help, right? So this is a charity that helps to feed people. They provide people with water and food and, like, you know, hygiene products, and counseling and bedding and food, and, you know, like, it's a very, very important cause. And just because it's Pride doesn't mean that we can't raise awareness and support other causes that are outside of the community. And they may not, you know, obviously there's LGBTQIA plus people in Palestine, so it's not like, you know, it's not like we're not also helping people in the community, right? Like, by default, by helping, you know, other communities or charities that are not LGBTQIA plus centered, we are obviously helping people in the process. So yeah, it's super important to help, because of the wild the wild political things and politically charged things that are happening over there. Imagine a week-long stream. 168-hour stream. Come on, mathematician. I could never. I could never. I think that could be done, though. Like, a week-long marathon stream could probably happen. That could probably be a thing. If, like, it could probably happen. If it was, like, a group of streamers and it was, like, an event or something that was happening, and someone just had, like, rotating staff and rotating streamers, that could probably happen. That could probably happen. I remember one of the coolest things that I saw. I remember when I kind of first started streaming and stuff like that, was seeing this, like, marathon. There were 2 Final Fantasy speedrunners, and they were doing a race. And I don't remember if it was for charity or not, actually. But they were going through every single Final Fantasy game, including, like, spin-offs and stuff like that. Maybe not every single one, but a lot of, like, Final Fantasy games. And there was this, like, multi-Twitch link, something like that. And you could see, like, every once in a while I would check in on them. And, like, sometimes one of them would be offline, the other would be going at it, and they would be, like, streaming, and they would be, like, Final Fantasy 6, and the other person would be, like, 7 or whatever. Like, it was really an interesting thing to watch. I didn't actively, like, watch, like, you know, for hours upon hours on end, but it was, like, a really interesting event that I never really, like, looked into. And I remember at the time, like, seeing an article for it, and I was like, this is very neat, actually. Like, seeing, like, all the games kind of, like, back to back, and, like, seeing what these, like, streamers are doing, and, like, every once in a while checking in on them and seeing who's, like, winning or whatever. But it was like, I think it was supposed to be for charity, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think they were, like, actively, like, you know, I don't think they were actively being, like, super hardcore about it. I think they were just, like, they were doing it, and they obviously wanted to win. Each of them wanted to win, probably. But I don't think it was, like, you know, I don't think they were taking it that seriously. I could never speedrun. Can we talk about speedrunning? Can we talk about top 10 things I could never do? That. I could never. I could never speedrun because I don't have the patience to practice. There's probably something very interesting and very exciting about, like, you know, like playing a video game and then like learning tips and tricks as you play it to, like, you know, shave off time and make your, like, you know, efforts better and make your next run better or faster or whatever. But I just could never. I absolutely could never. I just can't, like, dedicate myself to that one thing. Ooh, excuse me. I do think that speedruns are very interesting to watch because, like, there's just something fun about, like, sometimes just like watching someone get through an entire game that you enjoy within like one sitting, right? There's just something very satisfying about that. There's something, like, you know, like when games done quick is happening or something like that. And sometimes when you see their uploads on your recommended or something like that, you're just like, wow, this person beat like this game within like 45 minutes. I miss playing that game. Let me just watch that. And you watch someone play a game from your childhood in like 40 minutes and you're like, oh, that was really nice. You know what I mean? Just like stuff like that I think is really cool, but I could never use speedruns to help you beat certain parts you might be stuck at. Do you look for like no glitch speedruns on a specific game to see how they get around it? That's actually really, really smart. I like to watch a walkthrough. I'm old-fashioned like that. Imagine me trying to speedrun failing because I have to check the map every 10 seconds. I mean, that's the thing though. Like, I think they practice so much, it just becomes a thing that they just memorize. You know what I mean? Like, they just know. It's to the point where, like, I know with like certain games with speedruns, they memorize like almost like to the millisecond how things are, like, you know, like how you can skip a certain part or like the specific frame of a specific animation that you can, you know, land on or you can beat a boss at or whatever. It's like, my god. Yeah, I could never. Mainly, I only watch Super Monkey Ball speedruns. Okay. Imagine having that kind of brain power. Literally. Yeah, I could never. I could never. It's not for me. I also just can't, like I said, I can't really dedicate myself to just like learning something and like playing it every single day in and day out, and like, no. I don't have that kind of discipline, and I don't want to have that kind of discipline. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I watched like Sonic speedruns. Because again, those are games that like you can probably play within one sitting if you're a speedrunner. Although it's actually pretty nice to see sometimes, like, you know, like a Final Fantasy speedrun and they do it within like 5 hours or something. I don't even know. Let me check like the world record. Is it just speedrun.com? That's convenient. That's very convenient. Final Fantasy. Which one do we want to look at? Oh, there's a relay race. What is a relay race? Relay race 2. Oh. Yeah. They swap controller. Oh, is that a thing, actually? Let's see, like, Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 7 8. US, any percentage. The world record right now is 8 hours and 16 minutes. That's wild. With the PlayStation 1 disc. The PC version, the record is 7 hours and 28 minutes. The Windows 7 version, I guess, of it is 7 hours and 18 minutes. The HD version is also 7 hours. No, it's 7 hours and 28 minutes. HD on console is 7 hours and 46 minutes. PlayStation 1 digital is 9 hours and 11 minutes. There's only like 3 people though on that. We compare that with How Long to Beat. And let's look up Final Fantasy 8 on howlongtobeat.com. Final Fantasy 8. The main story on average takes people 40 hours and a half. On average, y'all. So, again, 40 hours, 8 hours, not comparable. To me, it's wild, though, the concept of, like, speedrunning a game that is that long. Like, do you just sit for 8 hours and you don't eat? Oh, I guess you can, like... Oh, I guess people time, like, the cutscenes, right? They know how long a cutscene is, so they're like, oh, let me go to the bathroom really quick. Or like, oh, let me get up and stretch really quick while this cutscene is happening. Because there's, like, a lot of, like, long cutscenes and stuff like that, so... I guess that's how they do it, but I could fucking never. I mean, I do sit at my computer for a long time, but I do get up to, like, eat and go to the bathroom and, like... Remember when it was, like, such a thing where people... I mean, 24-hour streams are still a thing. You know, let's be real. 24 hours are still a thing. But I still remember when they were, like, kind of newish and people, like, talked about, like, you know, people had diapers or, like, people wouldn't, like... I remember people had, like, buckets or something underneath their desk. I remember, like, hearing nasty shit. Like, not friends of mine, but I remember, like either reading, like, articles or, like, seeing stories about it or something. I think someone, like, died doing a 24-hour stream. Something like that. Wild. Wild, y'all. Wild. 24-hour streams, by the way, are horrible for you. Don't do it. "24-hour streams are, like, there's been, like, studies on it. On, like, long-term effects that they have on you. Like, it's wild. Oh yeah, let me check the, you've done a 12-hour and never again. I've done several 12 hours, and though they were fine, because I took breaks regularly. And I remember when I first got started with doing 12-hour streams, my friends would give me shit because I just fully would, like, leave the stream on BRB while I had dinner with my parents. So I remember a couple times where I was gone for like 30 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Which, you know, wouldn't recommend. But I was like, in the grand scheme of things, a 30-minute break is nothing in comparison to the 12 hours of stream that I'm doing. So, and I remember people were giving me shit about that. For a while. Like, I remember I would take a BRB, like, in a regular stream, and they're like, oh, you're gonna be gone for 30 minutes again? And I was like, how about you do a 12-hour stream? And they're like, well, I do 12-hour streams, and I never take breaks that long. I'm like, okay, great. You also look miserable for half of it anyway. Just, you know, didn't want to be rude. Listen, just a little bit of pettiness never hurt nobody. Let me look Final Fantasy 13 up for you, Spin. Final Fantasy 13. Okay, the world record. You're playing on PS3, so I'm gonna look up PS3. I guess it's fine. The world record right now, according to speedrun.com, the any percentage speedrun is 4 hours and 37 minutes. Yeah, and that's on PC. 4 hours and 37. On PC, it's 4 hours and 58 minutes. On Xbox is 5 hours and 33. PC easy. I don't know how that's different than just the regular PC one. And that one is 4 hours and 26 minutes. Starting starts on new game and finishes after dealing the Crystarium expanded message after Orphan 2. Oh, this is on easy difficulty. I'm at 55 hours now and I've only just gotten to You've also been grinding too much. You've also been grinding too much. Okay, so the all missions time is 9 hours and 49 minutes, and it's actually a Portuguese person. A month ago. Granted, they're also probably skipping cutscenes. Probably. Yeah, this is wild. The all missions one is like, timing starts on new game. You must complete each mission at least once. Timing ends after clearing the Crystarium expanded message after Orphan 2. Paragon variable is for runs that make the 5-star requirement for every fight. Can be checked post-run. Must be done on normal difficulty. I would argue that I'm grinding exactly enough. You believe that? Yeah, you believe that. To each their own. I look up Final Fantasy 13 on how long to beat. Okay, so the average is 48 hours and a half. You blasted through those 2 Eidolon summons last stream, so it's working for me. Uh-huh. Your characters lose 2 HP and you're like, oh my god, that was so hard, I almost died. Right, yeah, Spin is like, oh my god, that was so stressful, and he just like gets 5 stars. And he like completely destroys all the bosses, and he like gets maybe on the yellow line once, and he's like, oh my god, it was so difficult, I was so stressed, that was so hard. Meanwhile, I play Final Fantasy games, I barely grind, and I'm like actually getting through some of these battles by the skin of my teeth, and I'm like my god. But same. I'm not a grindy girl. I don't like to do repetitive things. I'm not into grinding as a concept. Yeah. You already know I'm a drama queen. You love me anyway, though. We do. We do. We sure do. That's how they get ya. That's how they get ya. They're cute, they're nice, they're kind, and then once you're like, oh, they're a nice friend, then they pull their shit on you, and you're like, well, I can't back off now. As if I'm not a drama queen. Let's talk about that. I'm stuck with you. I am. Yeah. I just can't do grinding in games like that. I don't have the patience. Sometimes that's why sometimes with mobile games I can't really play them for too long because they end up being quite repetitive for me. Sometimes I just change things around just because, only to change stuff around a little bit. Because like for example, I'm playing that Final Fantasy, like it's like a tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics mobile game kind of. Well, it is a Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's a mobile game. It's its own like original story, and I always do like auto for the teams. Like I make the teams are made automatically. Their equipment is automatically equipped, all that stuff. And I always end up like with the same team, and it ends up being like a bit repetitive because like the fights are a bit repetitive. Like as I go through the game, I guess. And it also doesn't help that a lot of those games award you with so much stuff that you never like for me, like I never run out of like the currency that you need to like, play a mission, right? And I never run out of like things to do, but I'm always like, I guess I'm not good at managing stuff in those games because I always focus on like the summoning, the gacha parts of it. I focus on like, and then I'm like, oh my god, I need to, upgrade my characters. I need to upgrade my things, and I need to upgrade my equipment. And then by that point, I've spent so much time that I'm like, I don't even want to play the game anymore. Like, I don't want to play the game itself right now. Or I end up like blasting through the story in the beginning, which I don't like. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like grinding too much, because I don't like blasting through a portion of the game. Because for me that's not fun. I like to allow myself to have a bit of a challenge. But yeah, grinding is therapeutic for me. I do it to relax. That makes sense. It depends on the game, because with Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, I could literally grind while watching a movie or something, because I can press 4 buttons and kill each group of enemies. That's valid. And a lot of people find comfort in like, repetitive tasks, right? A lot of people love doing repetitive tasks. It like relaxes them, like y'all said, and it's like meditative for them, right? You're in a situation where you're just kind of like, you're like occupied, but you're not really occupied because your brain is like on autopilot, and while you're doing something else sometimes, or while you're, I totally feel that. Like I've had to grind sometimes in like, I remember Final Fantasy 12, I think. I either had to grind or like, the game was just very slow to get from each part of the game, so like a lot of it, like you had to walk a lot, and the PS2 version you didn't have like the speed up button or anything. So I remember I would just put on like a podcast or something while I was playing. Also because that game is very automated as far as like how the fights go. Like you just program everything and the characters just do stuff, which is not my favorite, but it is what it is. They actually had a tactics. They had a tactical RPG sequel to 12. Did I say 13? Final Fantasy 12. 12 has like a DS sequel that was like a tactical RPG sequel, which I think a lot of people just like ignore, or a lot of people just don't acknowledge, because it was like it was like a 2D. I don't think it was a 3DS. I think it was just like a DS game. Which is like annoying. Like if your game is like on PS2, why would the sequel be on a different platform? Kingdom Hearts. Why would you have a mainline game, Kingdom Hearts 2, and then have the sequels that are not like sequels, that they don't talk about them as if they're sequels, but they are sequels? It's so annoying to me. I'm so sorry. I find it so annoying when people used to do that. You can argue that Bayonetta did that, because Bayonetta, I think, originally came out for PS3 and Xbox 360, if I'm not mistaken. And then possibly the Wii as well. And then I think Nintendo were the only ones who like paid up for a sequel or something like that, or they wanted to publish it. So I think Sega was like, oh, it's gonna be a Wii U exclusive then, because they paid up. But that I understand. And I guess that's a pretty normal thing, I guess. Because like if a series is popular, you can try to leverage that and be like, oh yeah, if you pay us, we can make a sequel to it or a spin-off to it in a different platform. And the fans of it are likely to buy your, console or handheld or whatever. Which a lot of us didn't, turns out. Although I did love Birth by Sleep on my PSP. I remember she got very hot playing that game. I remember like the little do you remember like the tiny discs that they had for the PSP that came in like a weird the PSP was so weird. It was it was a cartridge-esque thing that had a tiny CD in it. I was like, what? And I remember they would like spin in the background. They would like do all the zoomy sounds in the background, and like your PSP would get hot. It was a whole thing. I really liked I still have my PSP. I love it. I don't play it, but I like it. That's my thing, is like I have so much of my old consoles and stuff like that, and I'm like, I never play anything. I feel like I always want to save stuff for stream, but I can't possibly stream everything. Or unless things have been so chaotic, but I do want to finish Final Fantasy VII Remake. I do want to, I want to play. I feel bad because I had the charity thing where I had people choose what games I was going to play next. And then I just, not encumbered myself, but I just, took upon myself to do other things. And then I never got to them. Oh, I look not great, like leaning back like this, like, hi everybody. Ooh. You know what a game I loved? I loved Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Zack was probably one of my favorite game protagonists. I beat that whole game before I even played 7. I think we had 7, but I was like, oh, I'm just gonna play the prequel. I beat Final Fantasy VII, like Crisis Core, and I beat the sequel with Vincent before I played the original. Call me a clown. Call me a fool. I think I also watched the movie before I played the game too. I definitely watched the movie like twice. I didn't like retain any information from it, because I didn't know what was going on. When I said it was clowning time, I meant it. Every single time I tell you I'm a clown, y'all should believe me. Because I've had a track record of showing clownish behavior my whole life. What makes you believe? Do you think I'm lying? Do you think I'm lying when I say I'm a clown? I love Crisis Core though. It was so good. The gameplay was interesting. It was very different, TM. But I did like it. I want to play it sometime. I do want to play it sometime. I'm actually very excited for the Final Fantasy VII universe. The Final Fantasy VII Cinematic Universe mobile game coming. That's gonna be like all of the games and all of the timelines and all the things in one game. Because I think that's gonna be fierce to revisit all of that in under one timeline. I think that will be mighty cool. And I think it's also not a temporary solution, but like a short-term solution to the long-time problem that is the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, because it's gonna be a series. You better believe me. They're gonna have like 3 mainline games, and they're probably gonna have like 2 more DLCs for each of the things with like additional like storylines or additional things. You better trust me on that. So it's gonna take us a while to get the full Final Fantasy VII experience, the full Final Fantasy VII Remake experience. So I'm glad that they're doing it on like mobile as well. I'm also like, as someone who just like got back into Fortnite, I'm very excited for their like, I think it's called First Class game, which is like a Final Fantasy VII inspired battle royale where you're like a soldier. It looks good. It looks fun. I didn't sign up for the beta, for the closed beta, and I was so annoyed because I completely missed it. Because I still had my old phone, and I was like, oh girl, my phone can't run that. I don't have enough storage for this shit. Like I can't. But yeah. It may or may not be clown hours. Absolutely. Absolutely. What do I want to do? I don't know if we're gonna do a long stream today. I think it's probably gonna be like a shorter, just chatting stream today to kind of get back into the swing of things. Oh fuck, I completely forgot to mention that I'm literally doing a panel this Sunday. I'm doing an asexuality panel this Sunday. I still haven't put together the promotional picture for it. But it's happening on Sunday at 4 p.m. BST. Which is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I am so excited. It's gonna be a little bit of an earlier one. It's earlier than the others. I recognize that. But we're gonna have some amazing guests. I'm gonna announce that either later today or like tomorrow, earlier tomorrow. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to show all of that because it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do a panel on asexuality. We're gonna talk about what it's like for people in the ace spectrum, and like their experiences and misconceptions about what it's like to be ace. what their experiences are like in the community, outside of the community, being ace content creators and their experience in the content creator world. So it's going to be very interesting and it's going to be a very fun and enlightening and hopefully educational panel for a lot of people. I'm going to be moderating it. I don't think I'm ace myself. But I'm going to be moderating and I'm going to be asking questions for the sake of, I'm going to be the audience basically. I'm going to do stuff for the sake of audience, for us to get informed, for us to get educated, for us to learn, for us to hear from people in the ACE spectrum and their experiences and their stories and their lives and all that amazing stuff, which I'm very excited for. And our wonderful Pants Très Bien in chat may or may not be there. They may or may not be participating. Just a little tidbit, just a little sneak preview. I'm very, very excited for this panel. I'm excited for all of my panels. Truly. But yeah, that's that. And I'm gonna have a queer panel on queer media the week after, the Sunday after that, on the 27th, with people, with different queer people in different sides of media, whether it's music, journalism, acting, game deving, just different experiences in the media, in media, and different experiences in the streaming space. And I'm very, not just the streaming space, but streaming space, gaming space, media in general, and it's gonna be very interesting to hear from everybody as well. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. So there's that. About to treat myself to wine and sushi in honor of my fictional husband. I love that for you, Pants. Absolutely love that for you. And also, like, by the way, like, as a side thing, like, if you like any of my, if you like my streams, if you like my content, if you found enjoyment in them, if you found educational purposes in them, check out my Ko-Fi, I occasionally post content on there. I just recently posted a blog post on there about my experiences, being a queer person and a content creator doing Pride, and the double-edged sword that is Pride Month for queer creators. And it's free for everyone to view. You don't have to be a paid supporter on there. But I do have some content on there for paid supporters as well. Like, I have my first ever K-drama review on there. I have my Avatar Last Airbender review. I didn't post anything in May, but which I apologize for. But I will be, I definitely want to get back to it, especially as this month starts to slow down a little bit towards the end. I definitely want to, like, do something for y'all over there. But I also just want to, like, do more text posts as well, like maybe reviews of games and stuff like that, like written reviews or written impressions of things, and just have that as like a text post or a blog post or something. I'm very interested in, like, doing stuff like that too on the Ko-Fi. So definitely, like, follow it. You can follow it for free, and then you'll see, like, some posts are going to be for paid supporters, some posts are for everybody. So I'll try to have that distinguished. I'll try to have that open for as many people as I can. I'm even thinking of, like, after a while opening up certain posts for everybody. I don't know if that's the thing that you can do, but I'm thinking of doing that. Very inspired by our friend Lotus Loves Lotus, where she posts her content on Patreon, and then after a while she releases the content for everybody. I think that's really cool. I think a part of me is a little afraid of doing that because I'm like, oh, I don't want people to feel bad, like for people who like want to support me on there to feel like, oh my god, why did I support them if they were just gonna like release the content for free like a while later. But you know, it is what it is. Oh my god, Sonic the Hedgehog has a tabletop game, like a card game. You can play as Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Amy, Blaze, or Shadow. Oh no, I want it. But I would be charged for like extra for customs. Like now we have to like pay taxes, like additional taxes on that, and potentially like charged for like customs and stuff like that, which is really annoying. It's like a new European Union thing. Which we hate to see. Which we dislike. Which, you know, not fun, not great, not recommended. But yeah, it is what it is. How's your week been, everybody? Let me turn on my fan. How's your week been? I hope y'all have been having a good one. I have missed y'all. I do. I was doing just gaming things content, but I have missed like just hopping on here and saying hi to everybody and having a good time with y'all and just like chatting about stuff. You know how I am. I love to rant about all the things. But I hope y'all have been having a good one. I know that a lot of you are content creators as well, and a lot of you are queer. And so I hope that y'all are taking care of yourselves during Pride. I know that this month can be a lot. And I was kind of talking about it. I guess I can go into it a little bit. I don't mind going into it verbally because I wrote about it. Y'all can read my written thoughts about it. I was feeling a bit anxious about the whole situation. But you know, my thing about Pride is that, and I was able to articulate it better, you know, when I wrote about it on my Ko-Fi, so you can check that out for free. But my thing about Pride is that, at least for me, someone who, you know, I think I suffer from anxiety, right? I'm not used to juggling as much as I have to juggle during Pride. And this is not to say that I'm like, oh my god, poor me, I have people that want me to be a part of their things or like whatever. Like, that's not it, right? It's more coming from inside, like the pressure that I put on myself. Like, I remember leading up to Pride, I remember telling y'all, like, y'all, Pride is coming and I have no idea what to do, and I am feeling overwhelmed because I don't know what to plan. I haven't planned anything. I haven't planned anything. I feel like people are already planning all the things and they're doing the most and I'm not doing anything. And that's real, because we know as queer creators that during Pride, that's when the brands are watching. The brands are like, oh my god, queer people exist, let me look at them. Or they want to start working with us and they look at us during Pride and look at our events and look at our things and whatever, and they're like, ooh, let's work with them. And you also want to raise money for charity. You also want to, you know, be a part of events that your friends are putting on. You want to make your own events. You want to do the most, and then E3 happened, and then you want to do that because E3 is a big opportunity. As we noticed for Just Gaming Things, we grew a lot as a channel. We're at like 70 something followers or something like that. Like I remember looking at our followers and being like, when did we get here? Like we're getting close to 100 already. Which for a new channel that's like months old, it's really good. In my opinion. You know, just like stuff like that where like you don't have to, but you feel like you have to take on opportunities, you have to take on things, you have to be a part of things, because in order for your name to be out there, in order for your, you know, and a lot of us are not used to juggling all of this in a regular month. Like in May, I was not juggling all of these things. In May, I didn't have people DMing me about you know, things and opportunities and whatever, or people weren't putting, even queer people sometimes aren't putting on events outside of Pride, because we know that we might as well save that energy for Pride sometimes, because that's when people are going to be looking out for events, right? So like even in a lot of those situations, we you know, we're just like trying our best. And I guess what I wanted to say is like, take care of yourselves, everybody. If you're a queer streamer, even if you're a queer content creator, and we're roughly over the halfway mark of Pride, so take care of yourselves. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Don't feel like you have to be everywhere. Don't feel like you have to do the most. Do what you do best. If you can be a part of stuff, then do it. If you can't, don't feel bad about it. I know it's easier said than done, but we can't just do it all, you know? And I remember, like, I don't know if this person is watching or not. I personally don't care. But because I'm just gonna talk about my experience, I got reached out to by someone who, one, wasn't even following me. They're like a content creator who has like their own podcast and stuff, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come on my podcast and like talk about what it's like to be queer?" And I was kind of like, you know, a part of me was like, "Oh, I'm being invited for things," but another part of me was like, one, you're not even following me, so like, how do I know if you like actually value or care about me as a content creator? But secondly, I don't want to go into a seemingly straight space and have to tell straight people and like can almost like convince them like why my experiences as a queer person are different than theirs, or why I am marginalized, or, you know, like stuff like that, where it's like, I don't want to do that actually, no. You know, and I'm busy, you know, I'm also, you know, I was doing E3, and I was planning stuff. I have a couple other things that are gonna happen as well this month. A couple of like cool like little events. But it's like, no, I don't want to go to a seemingly straight space and tell people why, you know, a lot of spaces are homophobic, or like why I'm a marginalized person, and just like stuff like that. Does that make sense? That sounds exhausting. Yeah. There's nothing like being reached out to by... And that's another thing. It's like, shoot your shots. Absolutely. Not saying that like DMing me to be a part of a thing is shooting your shot. But at least like follow people for like a day or something before you want to like... Obviously, unless it's like you're an industry person, and obviously like you don't have to follow anyone. If you're an industry person, you're like, hey, I'm contacting you from insert company here. Like, of course you don't have to follow me. Like, I wouldn't like say that, but like if you're a content creator who wants to collaborate with other content creators, I would say the bare minimum is like, I would have imagined I would have seen your name either like liking my posts, or like following me, or, you know, chatting in my stream chat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that like, yeah, you should be like, you need to be my BFF and you need to like everything that I do. But it's usually like, especially if I have to approve of your DM and it comes out of nowhere and I don't know you at all and we don't have any mutuals, then I'm like, I don't know about that actually. You know what I mean? Especially because, to be honest, a lot of content creator collaborations are also not paid. And, you know, I say that as I host a panel that's not paid either, right? Like, I can't afford to pay people to be on my content. Like, people know that when they come to a panel or they come to a thing, it's like, we're just doing a thing together and, like, you know, whatever. Like, I wish I could pay them. Like, I wish I had, like, a sponsor and that was like, oh yeah, we're sponsoring the panel so you can pay people. But that's not a thing, and people know that, so it's like, also be aware of that. Like, if you're gonna invite someone to an event of yours and it's not a paid opportunity and they don't know you, and you also like don't follow them or any people that they know, then it's probably the likelihood that they're not gonna like say anything back to you. Because I personally reply, like, when someone is like, oh, do you want to do a thing? I'm like, I don't like to leave people on red. I think I've done that maybe like a couple times because I was like, I don't know what to say. But like these days I try not to. I try just to be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't, you know, and that's good enough, by the way. You don't have to justify. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to elaborate. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm busy that day or whatever. Because then it leads to more anxiety, trust me. I used to like excuse things a lot, like for work. I remember one time being like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, my dad can't bring me to work. Or like, oh, I don't have a ride at that time and I don't have public transportation at that time. And they were like, oh, just call a taxi and we'll pay you for the taxi fare. And I was like, ah. And then I came up with something else when I could have just been like, no, I can't, I'm sorry. They don't have to know why. I remember my mom telling me that. Like, she was like, you don't have to tell them. You can just say, I can't. Like, if they ask you, hey, can you come in today? You can just be like, no, I can't, I'm sorry. And I was like, but what if they say why? She was like, they don't have to. They shouldn't ask you why. And if they do, you can just literally tell them it's none of their business. Or you can just reiterate, I can't, I just can't. Like, she's like, if you're not scheduled to work that day, you don't have to elaborate on why you can't or can do something. You don't have to have like a valid excuse to not do something. You could just be like, sorry, I can't. Or like, I'd love to, but I'm not gonna be able to. Or I don't know. Of course, like if you would, like, for example, if it's a thing where like you just have to be honest, right? Like, be honest, be nice above everything else. Just like be nice. Like, you don't be an asshole. Just be like, no. But you can be like, no, I'm so sorry. I'm a bit busy right now. Or, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like. Or if you're interested in, but you can't make it to that thing, you can just be like, oh, I would love to in the future, but I can't end that day or something like that. You know, just like be honest about what you want and about your intentions too, right? Because if you're just gonna say like, oh, if you're just gonna come up with an excuse, that people are gonna believe you, right? Like, they're gonna be like, if you say like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't because of this thing, they're gonna assume that you want to, but you can't because of that thing. So they're gonna try to come up with a solution for that thing, and you don't want them to come up with a solution. So you might as well just say no. I wish I had thought like that during the times where work called me during my day off and I was dead asleep or on the bus out of town or something. Yeah, because my work used to call me. Like, I remember when I worked at Pizza Hut, every once in a while they would call me and be like, oh, can you come in today or whatever? And they would do it all the time because I always said yes. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And at some point I started coming up with excuses, but they still called, and sometimes, you know, I still ended up doing it anyway. I was like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, you can come in later, it's okay, or whatever. But it's interesting that after I started saying no, they stopped calling me as much because they knew I was gonna just say no. So, but it's interesting that sometimes it reflected kind of poorly on me, like people just kind of, people that were like super nice, like managers that were super nice, suddenly weren't like as nice to you because you weren't like always like there and always like saying yes and always just like bending over backwards to like, you know, be like, oh my god, of course, yes, let me drop everything and like whatever. Like at some point I was like, this is not healthy, mama. This is not healthy. You just ignored phone calls because I never gave them my cell phone. Love that. Over here, you kind of have to give your cell phone number because like people, obviously, like if you go on an interview, they want to, you know how they can call you back, and they will just use that number for like to call you for things or if they need anything or whatever. I remember in my old job, in my previous job at the coffee shop, I remember like sometimes I would just like fully ignore because my manager was kind of annoying, to be honest. Like she was kind of annoying, and sometimes and she would call people like at random times. I remember one time she called someone at like 10 p.m. and like to yell at them for something that they didn't do right or whatever. And I was like, Mama, mistake number one that you did was picking up the phone at 10 p.m. I was like, Mama, I was telling my coworker, like, your first mistake was answering the phone at 10 p.m. Like, I was like, your first mistake was answering the phone at 10 p.m. You know, not to victim blame, obviously, because, you know, that's an abusive thing for someone to call you at 10 p.m. if they're your manager and they call you at like 10 p.m. and they yell at you and you just kind of take it like they're obviously abusive and it's like not great. So I don't want to like be like victim blame, but at the same time, people just also need to like have boundaries and stick by them, right? I remember my boss, she would call me sometimes and I wouldn't pick up and she would just text me something and I would be like, and then after a little bit I would like text her back. I was like, Mama, the world is not gonna explode if you don't pick up the phone at that second. I guess their version of that was making me be a cashier when I was already at work for a different department, even though I left being a cashier for a reason, so I felt trapped when they always did that to me. Oh yeah, I remember the week that I quit my job at Pizza Hut. Hi Nico, how are you? The week I quit being at Pizza Hut was when there was like one of the shift managers, and she was usually like very nice and whatever. And I remember the one time she was like, oh, can you stay later? Because whatever, there's always a reason, right? There's always something going wrong, right? There's always someone who did something and whatever. And I was so tired because I don't remember what it was, but I remember at the time that they had like an expo around, like there's like it's like I guess you would call that an expo. It's like places where people do like conventions and stuff like that, right? Like a venue for conventions, right? And they had that like close to the mall I used to work at that had the Pizza Hut in it. And I would be like, and I remember it was like, I think it was summer, I think. It was like event season. I think I quit in like August or something. And it was like event season, right? So I think people had like school trips or something, and they would have lunch at like the mall, and then they would go to the event, or they would go to the event and then like have lunch, whatever it was. Like I remember arriving to work and there were like those like huge like city buses parked like nearby the mall, and I was like, fuck, it's like con season. I remember they had Comic-Con there as well. when Comic Con Portugal was up north. Now it's like in Lisbon, I think. But regardless, it was like con season and whatever, and I was like tired. There was like a bus of people or whatever, and it was rush hour was intense. Like for a weekday, right, at a mall, it was a lot for like me and maybe like a couple. Like it was me and maybe like that manager, and that manager only came in like every once in a while because she was doing like the restaurant part, like where people sat down to eat. They always like focused on that more, and I was on the side doing like the counter work where people like bought like a couple slices and a drink or something. Like we had those like combo packages and stuff like that. So I remember like I was working there, and then she would occasionally come by to help me because I was already experienced. Like I was already there for like, I think it was over a year at that point. So I was already like experienced, right? And she would come in like every once in a while. She would come in to like help me out and stuff. And I remember like my section was a mess, right? And I was like, cleaning up because it was getting close to my time. And I was already pissed. Oh, I remember. Oh my God, how could I forget? So it was already like, yeah, oh my God, I'm just remembering it. Work. It was already past my like time. Like my shift was already done, but I was alone and I couldn't be like that section. Just, you can't leave a counter alone, right? Like people are going to come in like at random times during the afternoon and stuff. So you can't just leave that section alone. That was always our like thing that we were like told, like you can't leave this section alone. Like there's always someone coming in to replace you, or like if you need to go to the bathroom, you either have to like wait for someone to come in who could potentially replace you, or you could just like go really quickly if you have another coworker with you. But again, I was alone, right? So I was waiting for the manager who was helping me to come by and like come in so I could leave. And I was hearing she was like talking to someone in the kitchen. So I was like, this asshole, she's like talking to the other girlie in the kitchen. They're just having a good old kiki in the kitchen while I'm waiting for her to come because I'm going to be late for my bus. And I was already pissed off because I had to catch 2 buses to go home. So if I missed and the buses that went to the mall at the time, it was like every 45 minutes or something like that. So I was already like, Mama, if I'm not catching this bus, I'm catching that bus, and I'm not leaving any later than that. So I was already pissed, right? Because it was already past my shift. Like my shift was technically done, but I was still working. And while I was waiting for her, I was like cleaning some stuff up, but I was like, you're gonna have time to clean. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where I was like, the afternoon shift was usually like in between lunch and dinner. It's usually like fine, so that's when you do a lot of cleaning. But I was like starting to clean stuff up. I was putting some stuff. I was like, oh, we ran out of cups. I was refilling stuff. I was doing my job, right? But I was doing it like casually because I was like, first of all, it's past my time. Second of all, I'm tired as fuck, right? And I've been alone for like basically all 4 hours of my shift. So I was just like doing it casually, but I was cleaning, I was doing my thing. But it wasn't like perfectly clean, right? It was like, it was in progress. And then this fucking asshole of a manager, she comes in and she was like, hey, can you like, so-and-so she wasn't able to come in today. I don't remember the reason. Like either someone got sick, or they didn't schedule someone, or someone had to skip work, or something happened, right? The afternoon person that was supposed to come after me wasn't coming into work. Or maybe the person, or they only had someone coming in like maybe like a couple hours later. It was something like that. It wasn't like that big of a deal. It wasn't something that I didn't do before, right? I like a lot of the times if they asked me to stay for like half an hour, a couple of hours, I would do it. Sometimes my parents would be waiting outside, y'all, for like 1 or 2 hours, and they were like, well, I guess they're working extra hours today. So it was a thing, right? It was a thing. Like I used to do that all the time because I thought that was what you're supposed to do, and I felt bad a lot of the times for them because I was like, oh, I don't want to leave my coworker like, alone, and they're like going through it, and it's like shit. But it's also manipulative. It's also abusive environment, right? Like you're not supposed to feel bad for your coworkers. Like you're supposed to have people to cover for them, right? But anyway, the one time I said no, she was like, I was like, no, I have to get on this bus. And she was like, oh, okay. And so I left, like, no big deal was had. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I have to catch this bus. I'm sorry, I can't. And she was like, I was already, and I was kind of pissed. So you could probably either see it or hear it in my voice. But I was trying to not show. But I was like, yeah, sorry, no, I have to get on that bus at this time. I'm sorry. And she was like, oh, okay, whatever. And so I left. And then later that day on Facebook, I was like relaxing and I was on Facebook, and another, like a coworker of mine, she messaged me. She was like, hey bestie, what the fuck happened? And I was like, what do you mean what happened? She was like, oh, so-and-so said that like you, and you hear this and you don't tell me, and tell me if this is not manipulative. They were like, oh, Ruby left exactly at the time that they were supposed to leave, and they didn't clean anything. Can you believe? Like, they said something, maybe they asked that person to come in earlier because they were like, wow, Ruby, like, just when their time to clock out came, they just left and they didn't even clean anything or whatever. Like, that's what they, like, were telling them. And I was like, no, like, I left, first of all, I left after my time was done. I was already, like, I was late for my bus, by the way. Like, I was already late. And I was cleaning before I left, but obviously she like, you know, she had to clean because I was alone for like 4 hours. Can you fucking believe the next day, or like the next time I had work, that's when I quit. I literally quit that week. I put in my like notice that week. Cause like it was perfect timing too, cause the manager was gone on vacation. Cause he talked me out of quitting once. He talked me out of quitting once because he was very nice. And you know, kind of manipulative, I'm not gonna lie. Cause that's their job as well. Like, you know, if you try to quit, they're gonna talk you out of it. But he was like, no, you can just like, I'll have you do whatever hours you want to do. I'll have you do whatever shifts you want to do. Like, very flexible. That's when I realized, I was like, the problem isn't the shifts, mama. You're just over this. And this is just not great. This is just not good for you, right? That's when I realized, I was like, oh, I'm doing 30 hours instead of 40. And I'm doing the schedule that I want that works probably best for my content creation stuff. But it's still miserable. Like, the problem is not the schedule, it's the environment. And so, and a lot of people were quitting. And I remember one of my besties from at work also had put in her notice. I was basically, honestly, from like the group of people that came in around the time that I came in, I was the last person standing. Like, not counting the people that were there before me or the people that came in afterwards. Like, I was like in that group of people that came in around the same time as I did. I was the last one standing. A lot of my besties were like gone. Everyone was leaving. It was one of those situations, right? I put in my letter that week. I was over it. I was so pissed. I'm sorry I had to deal with that. I know. Can you believe? Like, people are so fucking disgusting at those jobs sometimes. Like, they're manipulative. They're like, oh my god, so-and-so skipped work today. And then you learn later that they were sick. And they were like, well, I was fucking sick. I told them that I was sick. And they make it seem like, oh my god, that person skipped work today and they left me in shit. And like, I have so much work. And you're like, oh my god, I feel so bad. Let me go to work. Like, no. I'm sorry. Deal with it. You're paid to be a manager. I'm not. You're supposed to deal with it. I'm not. Treating myself. Yes, pants. Spicy salmon avocado, yellowtail scallion. Yes. Come on, sushi. Breaking out the sake. Ooh. Iconic. I beg you not to see my Twitter. I opened Pants' Twitter. What if I showed Pants' Twitter right on screen for everyone to see? I'm just kidding. I'm gonna look at it though. I'm gonna look at it though. Doing what I'm doing now isn't easy, but at least I know no manager is gonna take advantage of me like that again. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's like a thing that unfortunately I learned as, you know, as I've gone through a lot of different I've worked a lot of food industry places, and it's always, a lot of the times it's like very manipulative environments where like the managers are basically, it's basically ingrained in them. I don't think they even realize that they're doing it, but they pit people against each other because they want to have control over everybody. So they pit people against each other. They ask sometimes inflammable questions during stressful times, so you talk shit about people. Like, you're like, oh, that fucking whore, how dare she skip work? And then next thing you know, they're like telling people like, oh my god, he said this and that about you. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just shit like that happens in like food industry places, and I'm sure retail is the same thing. Where it's like a lot of times like management is like very manipulative, and they pit people against each other. They don't like people to be on the same page, especially if it has to do with like them not doing a good job, or if it has to do with us wanting rights or us wanting like things to change and stuff like that. They don't want us to get along, so they try to shift the focus onto like, oh, but they said that you had a fat ass. And you're like, don't mind if I do. Just like shit like that, you know what I mean? That's why I'm like happy with what I'm doing right now, because I'm my own boss. It's not easy. And it's definitely, I don't get paid as much or as frequently as I did when I had a job like that, but I'm much happier. Our public speaking teacher took 0 excuses. Even when a student was literally hospitalized, the teacher still gave them a 0 because they weren't in class the day of the presentation. That's fucking rotted. Teachers that are like that, they're fucking rotted. Like, I hope that you have the shittiest shit, and you shit yourself with that shittiest of shittiest shits, and that and that nobody believes your excuse. I hate stuff like that. I hate when teachers were like that. I hate it. Or like when they were like, oh my god, the deadline is like 11:59, and people like turned in their work at like 12, and they're like, oh my god, if you were prepared in advance. And we're like, oh, but we also, you know, had to study for a test that week. We also had a thing that week. We also had another thing the week after that we had to prepare for. And they were like, you should have just worked harder. Bye. I'm obsessed with the cat boy. You know what? As you should. And they were right about my fat ass. We love and support you, Ruby. Oh, Nico, you're so sweet. She also tried to clown us and be like, I'm going to school right now too, so I know what you're going through, and then proceed to be an unreasonable professor that told students to never contact her. Yep, sounds about right. When work and school environments don't care about people's mental health and like physical health. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't know if I'm like physically tired, physically exhausted. You don't know what I'm doing. I had coworkers. Oh my god, I had people in high school that had part-time jobs because they were already like of age to work, right? And some of them were like, their parents were like, "Mama, we need help." So, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of them were like working part-time jobs and stuff like that in high school. And it's like, for them to have like unreasonable expectations on them. Or I remember one of my schoolmates, they were giving her shit because she couldn't she couldn't attend a specific time for like internship or whatever because of work. And it's like, yeah, she has work. She's hired. She actually worked at the job at the like coffee shop that I quit last year. Fun fact. I think it opened when, I think it was like around the time it opened, she worked there. The wild thing, I think she worked with another person that used to go to school with me too. Like in like middle school and stuff like that. It's wild. And I think the person who was my manager was a coworker of theirs at the time. Just like wild. It's like wild how stuff happens like that. But yeah. It's just like not like cute. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to, like, I get it, it's annoying sometimes, you know what I mean? Like if you plan for something, I know for me sometimes it's also annoying when like I'm planning something and like people do a lot of stuff last minute and stuff like that, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. But also it's like, you can't say that you're like inclusive, and you can't say that you are you know what I mean? Like you can't say that you're inclusive and that you advocate for mental health and for people to take care of themselves and self-care, and then to like snap at someone for being late for something, right? Like that's not, you know, when people like are like, oh my god, I'm so sorry I didn't see your message, or like, oh my god, I'm so sorry to do this last minute. I'm like, it's fine, because it is fine, you know? Like maybe I should have done things more like in advance, or maybe I could have been better at it. But I also know that I'm also not perfect, and I also probably miss deadlines all the time, and I also am messy, and sometimes I lose track of things and all of that stuff. Like nobody is like perfect, so like, you know, calm down. Like it's inconvenient for you, but the person already, if chances are if someone is missing a deadline or if someone is late to something, they're probably already feeling bad about it. You know, like nobody feels good about being late. Unless, you know, you have a shitty job and you're late and you're like, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna be late. But even then, chances are there's a bestie at work that you feel bad about. You're like, oh, I feel bad that my bestie is working extra hard because I'm not there, or because I'm late or whatever. I remember at my last, when I was still at Pizza Hut, I could physically and mentally tell when I've had it, because I would catch the bus that was as late as possible. And sometimes I would like be changing, like for example, if I had to clock in at like 12, which like we didn't have like a card system, so we didn't have like to clock in. But I remember one time, like I had a coworker who was like, oh, like people are always coming in like last second or like late-ish, and I'm like, it's been a minute, calm down. I was like, it's been 5 minutes. It's gonna be okay. I remember one time I kind of snapped at a coworker of mine. I was like, oh, me being 15 minutes late makes up for the 15-minute break that I'm not gonna take because I don't smoke. Because she was a smoker. And she often took like 5 to 10-minute breaks, because legally people have to allow people to have like a smoking break if they're smokers. I remember one time I was like, oh, don't worry, me being late 5 minutes makes up for the 5-minute break that I'm not gonna take because I don't smoke. And they're like, ooh, and they didn't say shit to me ever again. I was also that coworker that I'm that coworker, y'all, that is so nice. I'm so nice and professional to everybody. I'm super nice. When y'all test me though, I'm gonna come back at you and y'all are not gonna like it. That's the type of coworker that I am. Like I'm always like very nice and respectful, but if someone comes for me, I'm like, if I know I'm right, I'm dragging you down. Because that coworker was always like, she was like that coworker that worked in that place since they opened, but she never like got promoted. So I can assume that she was fuming. Every time someone got promoted, every time we got a new manager, she was probably fuming. which rightfully so. It's not, you know, like, come on. She's been working there for like years. You know, you should be better to her. But, you know, whatever. But she was that coworker that like wasn't a manager, but like she thought that because she was there for so long that she could act like manager-esque. Also because like sometimes new managers come into a place and they usually gravitate towards people who have been the longest, and they're like, hey, what's, you know, like they usually have a little bit more power, slightly more power, because managers tend to go towards them as like the oldest person there. But I remember like a couple times she like tried to like do that thing of like, oh, some people take a little bit longer from their breaks. And I was like, well, some people don't take 5 to 10 minute breaks in the middle of their shift, so I'm sure they'll be fine. Because that was also a thing with like lunch breaks. I was like, I think we had like 30-minute breaks or something like that. And I remember like I used to like eat my lunch and go to the bathroom, and then at some point after being there for a while, I was like, Mama, I'm gonna take the 30 minutes to eat and rest, and then when I go in and put my phone in my like locker and stuff like that, then I'm gonna go to the bathroom and I'm gonna come in. And if someone gives me shit for it, I'm just gonna say, oh, I never take my 10-minute break anyway, so and I always leave late anyway, so that was my thing though. Like I never left exactly at the time that I was supposed to leave. You know what I mean? Like I just never did. I remember when I worked at McDonald's, I actually got in trouble for once. Because they actually paid you every single cent. Like if you're supposed to clock out at 8 and you left at like 8:15, they paid you every single cent that you were supposed to get from those 15 minutes. And I remember one time I got in trouble for it. She was like, you always clock out like minutes afterwards. She was like, no, there's enough people, like, and that was actually kind of a nice thing, you know what I mean? She was like, there's enough people working here. If it's your time to go, it's your time to go. They will deal with it. It's their job to deal with it. And I was like, kind of right. I was like, work. You're not wrong. But yeah, that was a thing. A coworker tried that with me and another because we left early, and my project manager was like, do not, they get here early. Right. Hi, Matitas, how are you? That's funny. Yeah, because like that coworker, like she always got there early, but the second it was time for her to go, she would go. She didn't give a shit if like the whole kitchen was like burning, right? Like she didn't give a shit if the whole place was burning down. So for me, I was like, why would I be here early only to go like smoke a cigarette and like start working at the same time as everyone else? You know what I mean? I was like, I'm just gonna be there on time, barely sometimes, but I was there on time-ish. Because like another thing is like sometimes I would be there on time, but like for example the pizza wouldn't be ready on time or something. So I was like, oh, so y'all can fuck around, y'all can have lunch, y'all can be late, but I can't? Okay. That environment sometimes was so like disgusting. Like sometimes the person in the kitchen would just like be like kikiing with like a manager or something, and I'm like over there on my thing, like on the register, like, you know, like asking them to like make more pizza or something. They're not doing it, so I have to put it myself. And she's like, can't you see that I'm like that I have to watch? Apparently they had to watch this like machine that was like mixing the flour, or like mixing the pizza mix or the pizza mixture or whatever. Like you have to like mix it, and you're supposed to do it with your hands, but they had like a machine that did it automatically. So apparently they had to watch it. But I'm like, Mama, you can step away from that. Like, if you hear the thing printing an order, maybe step away for like 2 seconds or ask someone to do it. Don't just like sit there and kiki and I can hear you laughing and talking in the background while my pizzas aren't getting here, Mama. I was like, no. Because a lot of the times they already like pre-prepared some of them. Like, it wasn't like they weren't like ever heating them up. But for example, like they already had like the cold like base for it, so they would already like put in like the sauce or the cheese, and they would put in some of the toppings. Just for like rush hour, we already had like the pizza like refrigerated, and we just had to put it in the oven. It was just as delicious because it was made like maybe like 10 minutes ago or something like that, and it was put in the fridge. Like, it wasn't like, it was still like fresh, you know what I mean? Like, they were really good at like the ingredients and taking care of that, actually. So the pizzas were always iconic. But I remember this little asshole, she told me like sometimes to be like, oh, the fridge is right over there, you can just like put them in there. And I remember one time I was like, I'm sorry, this is not my section. I remember I would be so pissed. And one time they told me like, hey, like, and I remember like one time we actually had a conversation, and they were like, hey, you know, they actually put a lot of pressure on me as well. And I remember like we were talking, and we actually got along really well, and they actually gave me like a really big hug. Like when I quit, they were actually someone that were like, hey, I asked our manager, and you can come with me on my like smoke break, and we can just like chat. And they had like a really lovely conversation with me, and like they gave me a really big hug before I left and stuff. And like I understood that sometimes they also were left alone in the kitchen, and they were just left with like all these responsibilities while like everyone else wasn't doing shit, right? So I get that, you know what I mean? Like I kind of felt bad. I was like, I get it, I'll help you out, you know. And it became, after a while, it became a thing where like they helped me out as much as they could, and I helped them out as much as I could, and it became like a thing. But you know, it's just like sometimes it's just like shitty, and sometimes people are shitty because the environment is shitty as well. You know what I mean? I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well too, Matitas. It was just him being mad if we left before him, right? Yeah. People never, I noticed that like when I start like losing it at work is when I start coming in late, or like when I leave the house as late as I possibly can. So I either like start work exactly on time, or I get there like maybe a couple minutes in. And I get there and I become that way because I always leave late anyway. So I'm like, if someone ever gives me shit for coming in 2 minutes later, I'm gonna fucking tell them how late I left last night. So people never gave me shit for stuff like that. They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. Retail, food industry, hate to see it. What sucks about it as well is like people that work retail and people that work food industry, like they're essential workers, and like we would get paid like minimum wage, mama. We got paid minimum wage to deal with like shitty ass people, shitty ass management, shitty ass like upper ups, like shitty ass like environment, shitty ass work conditions, and you just kind of have to deal with it. And it's like, yeah, it's a job that you can get if you don't have like a degree and if you don't have like whatever, but it's like, ugh, it's not fun, it's not great. Getting yelled at by customers because it was my first day for breakfast and I was struggling to find the buttons. People would get like an attitude as well with me too. Cause like, and I talked about it because I thought it was so funny. And when I say funny, I mean frustrating, but also funny, that people were late for work And yet they would come to the coffee shop to have breakfast, and then they would get mad at us for having to wait because then they would be late for work. I'm like, Mama, if you're on a time constriction, just make breakfast at home, or like go to work, or you should have got here earlier, or you should have just gone to work earlier. Wake up earlier. It's not my fault. You're late for work. And you can talk like that to customers too, which is annoying. Getting yelled, yeah, I heard about that. Mentally unstable because of 3 years of retail, living the dream, having a panic attack mid-shift, love that for me. And then being expected to smile and be the nicest person and try to sell more stuff than they want. It's lovely. My old coworker telling me I should care about the royal wedding because that's where we're from. And I'm looking at his white ass like, not that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's so rotted. What the hell? That's so ugly. Experiencing your first panic attack of your life after your first shift and it being a 6-hour one with no lunch break. That's allowed? 6-hour shift with no breaks? Jesus. I've over here you're it's not allowed. Like you have to legally take a lunch break for every 4 hours of work, I think. It has to be longer than 6 hours? Not that. Koga, thank you so much for the... Not your name getting cut off. Just a singular Koga jangle. Thank you so much for the 46-month resub. I really appreciate that. Everybody, if you're not following Koga, he's also one of our co-hosts on Just Gaming Things, which we'll be doing a podcast tomorrow. And Koga also does a variety of lovely content. Fighting games, Sega Saturn games, Yakuza, just all of the wonderful things. When I wasn't a convention center banquet server job, I'd regularly work 12-hour shifts with no breaks. That's disgusting. I remember I've gone a long time without eating because guess what? Just because it's legal doesn't mean that they enforce it sometimes. Because literally sometimes you just can't. It's like if someone just skipped work that day, it's like, oh well, I guess I'm not taking a lunch break right now. So I remember tweeting about it too. I remember like having a lunch break after like 6 hours or like 7 hours or something like wild like that, and like not having eaten or gone to the bathroom in that long too, and just like working on like just I had fumes for and then having to close because I was always the closer at my previous job at the coffee shop. I was always the closer, so I always had to like deal with the afternoon rush and then close, and it was not great. I hated it. And then like I saw a TikTok about this and it was so funny. It was like, it was in Portuguese too, and it was like someone like they cleaned and like they left the place like pristine, and then they cut to someone like the day after and they're like, oh my god, there's one crumb here, oh my god. And that is 100% the experience about working in the food industry and you're closing. They see one thing out of place and they're like, oh my god, you flopped your closing. Oh my god, you need to be better your closing, because there were like footsteps marks on the ground. I'm like, yeah, I had to mop the floor, and then like it didn't have enough time for it to dry, so I walked 2 steps over it to retrieve something, and they were like, wow, there was like a footstep mark, oh my god, or like, oh my god, you left one napkin, like shit like that. It would get so much on my nerves. Like sometimes I would forget to change like one garbage can. They would be like, wow, you didn't change the garbage cans. I remember one time I snapped at a coworker because one, she's not a manager. So I was like, if you're not a manager and you're being shitty to me, guess what, Mimi? I'm snapping at you. And she was like, she had a fucking list, y'all. She had a fucking list. She wrote shit down. She had the time. She wrote a whole fucking list. She was like, and it was like stuff that I was like, come on. Like, you get here, like, you literally clock in an hour and a half before we're supposed to open. If I missed something, you can do it. Just the same thing as y'all, like, doing shitty things and me having to clean after y'all. Like, y'all can clean after me too if I missed something. Anyway, she had a whole fucking list. And I just remember, like, vaguely, I don't remember what I said exactly, but I remember, like, vaguely snapping. I was like, I'm just doing my best. I was like, I said something to the effect of, like, y'all always find something to complain about. Like, I'm just trying my best, Like, yes, I forget some things, yes, whatever, but I'm just trying my best here. I'm only doing what I can with the time that I have. And then and I was, like, semi-new, right? And they were like, well, I can do it. Or, like, oh, so-and-so can do it. And I was like, okay. I remember after I was, after I was there for a while, I would have these conversations with people. Then I was like, then why aren't they doing it? If they can do it and I can't, then why do they keep putting me in closing when that person seemingly is perfectly fine at it? Oh my god. I had to speedrun muting that. Jesus, that sneeze snuck up on me. Oh my god, that's definitely hair industry too. Like, the morning people come and see one hair and they're like, oh my god, you didn't sweep before you left. Right. You know what they do over here too? And I learned on this TikTok as well that it's a normal thing that other people do in other jobs, where they take a fucking picture so that you're like, oh, I swept the floor. And they're like, well, and and you're like, oh, I guess. For me, it was always like, what about this? And I was like, oh, I guess I must have forgotten. Like, I was like, I don't have a fucking, I'm like, oh, I guess I forgot. And, like, I always made it seem like, and? Like, I never tried to make it seem like I was like, oh my god, I obviously did it. I obviously did that. But it's like, I was like, oh, I guess I forgot. Or I guess I didn't have time for it. It's so funny that they would do that to me too, because, like, I remember, like, people, like, I feel like for a while it was every single day. People would be like, oh my god, we could totally tell that you were chaotic last night because, like, we could tell that you started a bunch of tasks and you didn't finish a lot of them. And I was like, okay. But, and then I was, like, frustrated because I was like, then why do you keep putting me in that position if you see that I'm clearly not good at it? Like, for me, it was so confusing. I'm like, why am I always closing when clearly I'm not good at it? Like, if I'm not good at it, then don't make me do it. It was so annoying to me. It was so frustrating. I probably talked about this on stream often too, because I remember being so annoyed at the time. And they always, like, tell you, but, like, they always tell you where the problem is and they never tell you where the solution is, right? They never tell you, like, oh, because, like, as well, like, I don't know if it's like this in other industries, but, like, in food industry, a lot of the times you're only allowed to do certain, like, you're only allowed to clean after a certain time. Like, if it's like 1 hour before closing, and then you have to do all of this shit, right? Like, you're not allowed to just, like, do stuff, like, a lot in advance, because then, like, it looks bad that, like, people are coming in and, like, you have, like, a mop in your hands, or, like, if a customer is coming in and you're like, and even, like, certain machines, you can't just, like, clean them and then someone comes in and, like, they ask for that thing an hour later, right? So, like, we're not allowed to do stuff super far in advance. But then again, it's like, then what the fuck am I supposed to do? It was, oh my god, it was so stressful. I had like 2 or 3 panic attacks while doing closing. I remember several times, like, running around, already hearing the complaints, because I was gonna work the next day, like, around lunchtime. So I would meet with the person that worked opening that day. So I would always, I would hear their complaints in advance. I would already like be doing all that. And I remember like doing a breathing exercise like while I was running around recklessly. It was so bad. I hated it so much. Hi, Ryan. Me following customers around with a mop to scare them out. I remember, you know what we do sometimes? Sometimes people, because again, coffee shop, people would come in and sit down. And I remember I would pick up the chairs and the... Because like at the mall, we had a thing where we had to close like a steel curtain. And so we had to pull in all of our chairs and all of our tables inside of our little not cubicle, but you know what I mean? Like the allotted space that we had to pull everything in and put it in a little corner so people could clean it in the morning, all that shit, right? I remember when it was close to closing time, I would like start picking up chairs and tables around them for them to get the hint. And a lot of times they didn't. Imagine you're sitting down in a coffee shop and you know the place is going to close in like 10 minutes. And the person is literally cleaning around you. They're picking up chairs and tables and putting them in a corner. And you're just there. And you're just relaxed. And you're just having the time of your life with your besties. Like, how? How do you not feel like uncomfortable by someone like around you cleaning shit and like doing stuff? Like, that was the thing that blew my mind. I was like, how do these people like eat and just have a good old time and just have a good old kiki with their besties as like the place is like closing down? People are like, you know, turning off lights, you know, like what the fuck is going on? Wipe down the customer. We had like disinfectant in like a little spray bottle so we could spray down surfaces and stuff. This was even before COVID. Like we had to do that, right? That's a food industry thing. You always are cleaning everything. Just spray them down. Just like out of here. You chase them down with the little spray bottle of disinfectant. My God. You always used to turn lights out on customers. I love that. I love that so much. I love that energy so much. Oh my God, you weren't moving, so I thought you were part of the table. Could you imagine? We have a thing here in Portugal that's called the Book of Complaints. Is that a thing in the US? It's like this red book that every single place has, including like hospitals and like literally any establishment that you can go to has a red book called the Complaints Book, in which people write their complaints in there. And I think, I think that's the thing, Ryan. I think people are allowed to, if they want to, they can like go through the book. Because you're not allowed to say no to them. Like when someone is like, oh, I want the book of complaints, like you're not allowed to say no. Even if their complaint is completely like out of pocket, right? But that's a thing that we had to like do. Like that was like a thing. And like I don't know if it's like there's like an entity that goes and reviews those, because like we had things over here where like every like at least once a month we had a thing where like at least once a month they had things where like an outside people would like inspect the place to see if it was clean, if it was up to code, if it was all that. And I don't know if they had a separate like entity that would like go through the book. I remember when I worked at a phone provider, I remember my first day, the person that I was shadowing, she got the book of complaints, and I remember I was new to the industry, so I was like, oh my god, and she was like, oh, this is a thing here, like, because people just complain about everything, and they think that because they complain about it in the book that we're gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, you're right, let me just reverse all the, you know, let me just you know, ignore all of my orders for you because you're complaining. But yeah, it's a thing here, and I think people pay like I think establishments pay like some kind of fee every time they get a complaint or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works. Oh yeah, like a lot of places do fill up books like fairly regularly because we don't have like, it's not like Portuguese people, there's like a lot of Karens, but there are a few. And a lot of them think that they can just like, you know what I mean? Because they complain that they're right, and because of I remember I used to give sometimes kind of like attitude to customers. They would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna file a complaint," and I would tell them exactly how. Because they think that like when they threaten that to file a complaint that you're gonna be like, oh my god, no, I'm so sorry, no, please don't do it. I would be the absolute opposite. I would be like, I was that kind of like person that like you came into my counter and I would always be like, hi, how's your day going? And like if I was like telling you something like, no, we can't do that, I'm so sorry, I would do it with like a smile on my face, and I would be like, yeah, you can go to the counter over there and you can find, you know what I mean? I would be like, you can file a complaint over there with my coworker if you choose to do so, and I will not do that for you because I'm not allowed to. My coworkers loved me because of that. They were like, they would always give the complicated customers to me, because they knew that I dealt with them in that way, and they were like, I could never, and I was like, it's your job. I was like, it's your job to do it. But they're like, oh my god, but you're just so good at it. I'm like, yeah, because I have to, because y'all don't do it. I googled it. It is then the obligation of the business establishment to transmit each page of the book to the competent authorities, the equivalent of repression of fraud, which will judge the merits of the claims with sometimes significant consequences. If it turns out that after examining a request it is judged that the provider has committed an offense deemed serious or a real fault, he incurs the risk of very heavy penalties ranging from the high fine to the pure closure and simple of its establishment. That's what I suspected. I don't think anyone ever like told me all the details of how it works, but I knew very vaguely that that's how it is. I think there's always like a default to like a small fine, I think. But it's not just a thing like where they close a place unless it's something like really bad, and then if it's something really bad, they will probably send like an unbiased like place or an unbiased we have like regulation companies. We have one called ASI. I don't remember what it stands for, but they do like unprompted like examinations. They do unprompted, like they just show up to your workplace and they're like, hi, I'm so and so from this place and we're here to do a evaluation, and they just basically come in and they basically write down everything that's like not up to code or whatever, and they just like it's a whole thing. And I think places have closed down because of stuff like that. Where do I apply for that job? Right? So yeah, like honestly, for the most part, I would say that like a lot of places here like are up to code and are like safe for you to eat in and stuff like that. Obviously you can do your research and like you can Google them and see how many stars are in like the reviews and stuff like that. But for the most part, I would say that like, a lot of places are pretty up to code because they kind of have to. Unless it, if it looks like they're not, then they're probably not. And I would, walk away. Oh, we had mice in one of my in the coffee shop I worked at. The mall was like right next to like a chunk of land, a chunk of like woods that wasn't like I guess it either had no owner or the owner was like didn't like properly take care of it or something like that. So like they had like mice that would just like go to the mall. It was just like a mall issue. It wasn't like my specific place that I worked at. It was like the mall I worked at as a whole. Like they had like mice. Just like every once in a while they just had mice pop up. And I remember one time, I guess we had like a couple or something in our like the place where we stored things in. And like I was like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. I'm not gonna sell a drink to someone that potentially a rat pissed in it. I was like, I'm not doing it. So I remember like some of my coworkers would go in there and like they would like disinfect the drinks and they would like bring them outside for me to like then put them in like the fridge at the end of the day or something, because I was like, I'm not going in there. And they knew if I said I wasn't gonna do it, I wasn't gonna do it. I was like, they can't force me to go in there because there's potential mice in there. The exterminator hasn't come yet, so I'm not legally forced to go in there, and I will expose them if I have to. And nobody ever dared telling me to go in there. I remember towards the end, we still didn't know if it was fully taken care of, but we were convinced that they weren't. So I would go in there really quickly and just run in and out really quickly. But I hated it. I would always like tell the other, the people that came in after me. I would always tell them to do it. I was like, I'm busy. But yeah, isn't that wild? They do that to like public hospitals and like literally anywhere. Like literally any establishment that you go in here, everyone has to have that book of complaints. There was a restaurant here in the US that was known for their jam on toast, and an ex-employee exposed them for scraping mold off of the jam consistently, enough that they had a mold bucket. Well, do you know that show Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay? We had like a Portuguese version of that, and it wasn't as bad as y'all's version. Let me just say that. Some of our restaurants were pretty bad, like I'm not gonna lie. But I was like, some of these I'm like, how? Amy's Baking Company. Is that the one where they had like 2 episodes or something like that? And the girlie was just like that, like super wide-eyed girlie. She was like, oh my god, I think I saw that. That show is so fucking nasty. They were so rude and made merch about it. Hey, get your 15 minutes of fame. I had a boxing match with a cockroach at a donut shop I used to work at. I was ready to brawl. I was the opposite. I was always I would always be like, oh my god, there's a cockroach there. You take care of it. I was never the one to take care of it. I was like, nope. If they might as well just start a family there, because I'm never touching that. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not cleaning that today because there's a fucking cockroach over there. Like, never. Couldn't be me. I was always the girl that was like, well, I guess I'm not going in that direction ever again. It was a mall thing. It was the problem was the mall. Like they had an unattended plot of land next door, so all kinds of shit happened in there. And they would just like crawl into the mall. I remember my manager once told me that she once had like a cockroach like land on her head or like her face or her like shoulder or something. And I was like, I would have perished. Because it was like something to do with like the vents and stuff like that. I was like, I would perish if a fucking cockroach landed on my forehead. I would quit my job that day. Never come back. You literally witnessed the next evolution of roaches at the hell place. Not that. I never did anything about cockroaches. I saw them all the time in the back and I was like, y'all can multiply for all I care. I don't own or care about the store. It's also not your job. That's why they hire exterminators. I was like, it's not my job. I'm not an exterminator. They have them call the exterminators. I'm not dealing with that. I would simply set myself on fire. Right, Spin. Hi, Mother Ducker. How are you? Hope you're doing well. It's fucking wild. I'm doing well. I'm sorry for the yawns. We're just having a nice little, just a 3-hour just chatting stream. I've been ranting for 3 fucking hours. That's me. That's me in a nutshell. Hire me for talking at your event. I will be able to host. I can talk for 3 hours non-stop. Give us all the rant, Ruby. I love that. I personally love that. Who the fuck is streaming? That's what I want to know. That's a rhetorical question. Please don't give me suggestions on raids. I feel very awkward when people tell me who I should raid and then I'm like, I want to raid someone else. I'm like, I don't want to raid that person. And you know, like when streamers in the audience, have y'all ever had a moment where you're like, who should I raid? And someone literally suggests someone that you despise and you're like, you have to be like nice about like, oh, you know, like you have to come up with something so it doesn't look like you just, you know, you don't just straight up say that you dislike the person. I always go with the, oh, they're streaming. Oh, that's nice. And then I'm like, oh, I'll rate this person though. Wait, you've never had that, Pants? It's so awkward. Please tell me at least one of you has had that before. I know Dex probably had that before. Or when I'm in other streams and they're like, oh, we're gonna raid Redacted, and I click out so fast. That has happened to me too. That happens to me sometimes. I more so see some in chats though that I'm like, right? It's so sad. Like you're like, oh my god, let me go say hi to them, and then they have someone you don't like in their chat, and you're like, oh well. I think it was a Pride, I don't remember when. Was it last year or was it the year before? They had like limited time emotes for some reason that they haven't brought back for no reason. Me losing friendships over that. I feel that. I don't know why they didn't just bring back past years like emotes. Like I don't know why they didn't just were like, oh, you couldn't unlock them last year. There you go. And maybe add like a couple new ones. I don't know, y'all. Maybe they fired the emote person, because y'all remember like last year I feel like they had new emotes like every month they had new emotes for something. And I feel like it hasn't been a thing this year, so I'm pretty sure they just hired like an emote artist full-time last year, and they let go of them to hire like new moderation people or something. I thought they were doing some this year. Yeah, they didn't. I need a non-binary emo. I know. The good ones were last year. Yeah, they had really good ones last year. And the year before, they were pretty good last year. The year before too. But yeah, that's always like such a thing. I'm like, oh no, not that person. It always kind of scares me too. Do y'all, again, this might be a me thing. Do y'all ever experience that thing where like you either like, you like you want like, oh my god, my brain is going faster than my words. Do you ever do that thing where like you apply for an event, or like someone reaches out to you and they're like, oh, do you want to be a part of this thing? And you're like, yes. And then you're afraid of who else they're going to invite. And you're like, oh no, I hope that they don't invite insert person here. I'm like, oh no. I'm always so scared. I'm like, oh my god, I hope I don't get paired up with those people. You've actually been in raids to people I do not care for. You know what? What the least that I will do is I will be a part of the, like, I will go in with the raid so that the person's number looks good. You know what I mean? Like if someone is raiding a streamer and they're like party of 17, I want to be the person that's like party of 18 to make them look bad, to make them look good. But if I don't like the person, I will not type in chat. If I don't like the person at all, I will not type in chat. I will like, I'm like, I refuse to be seen in this space for more than 2 minutes. I do that sometimes, yeah. And sometimes there's not like particular reasons. Like sometimes you just don't like people. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just don't like someone. You just don't vibe with them. Sometimes they do end up proving you right. But that's another story for another day. Sometimes you are like, oh, I was right. I made some points that day. But sometimes you never get proven right or wrong, and you just don't like someone for some reason. You just don't vibe with them, right? Well, I hope y'all love this person that I'm gonna raid today, because I adore the wonderful, delightful content creator that is Winnie. Pan said, I'll just say there's some wholesome streamers that I felt kept pointing out how weird I am. Oh, DM me right now, Pans. Let's go say hi to Winnie. You will, Pants, you better DM me right now. You better tell me who I should avoid. I'll probably dislike them for another reason, to be honest. I probably dislike them for different reasons. Don't worry about it. I will not reveal who you tell me. But we're gonna say hi to Winnie. For people who don't know, Winnie is an autistic, non-binary, queer, Vietnamese variety streamer who strives to provide an inclusive space for disabled, neurodivergent, LGBTQIA2+, and BIPOC folks. So let's go say hi to Winnie. Winnie is currently playing some demos from the Steam Next Fest. Currently playing the demo of Bear and Breakfast, which is a really cute game that I definitely want to play at some point. Again, I'm going to be on Just Gaming Things tomorrow for the podcast, and later that day I'm going to be on Ryan's Pyramid of What. So definitely stay tuned. I'm going to be tweeting all about that stuff. Let's go say hi to Winnie. The queerdom is here. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Copy and paste those messages right now. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.